Chapter 2079. At first, everyone was confused, not knowing what was going on. But slowly, some people began to see the signs. Zhou Daoyi exclaimed, "Advancement." Zhu Chongliang advanced. Everyone in the hall was dumbfounded when they heard this. Zhu Chongliang's current cultivation was at the 9th stage of the Golden Core. Many people knew that only when a cultivator reached the peak of the Golden Core could he feel the existence of the nascent soul. Then, by taking elixirs and practicing, the nascent soul could be slowly condensed into a nascent soul. Zhu Chongliang was at the top of the fortune list, but his strength was far inferior to Duan Wenbin and Chu Yuanlei. One of the important reasons was that he was only at the 9th stage of the Golden Core. And they were at the peak of the Golden Core. But advancing from the 9th stage of the Golden Core to the peak could be said to be the most difficult of all the small stages. Even though he had taken a lot of elixirs to refine his body and condense his soul, he was still one step away. This was known to the Qilin team and even to the teachers and students of the Longting Institute. But at this moment, Zhu Chongliang, who had been stuck at the 9th stage of the Golden Core, directly advanced after taking one of Mayan's elixirs. How could they not be shocked? How could they not be shocked? Elder Song's smile froze on his face. Yu Tsuinjian's face was also twisted. The people of the Xiaoyao school all felt proud and elated. Ling Yuma sneered, "Elder, you just bragged about the 7th stage Golden Crow elixir. Now, do you dare to guarantee that the Golden Crow elixir can help people advance in an instant?" Elder Song's lips trembled for a long time. Who said that the Golden Crow elixir can't be done? However, he was interrupted by Chu Tianyu before he could finish his words. Chu Tianyu's face was calm as he said lightly, "The Golden Crow elixir can't help people advance, nor can it expel the impurities in the veins during the advancement. The value of one Golden Crow elixir is not equal to that of one refined by Mayan. It couldn't even compare to 1 to 1, let alone 2 to 10. Everyone was dumbfounded and couldn't react at all. They had thought that Chu Tianyu would beat Mayan in the second round. But the result was that he lost even more miserably. Devour, what kind of pill is this? The vice deans nervously look at Mayan. I really have never seen this elixir in any ancient book. Mu Yen chuckles lightly, grabs a pill, and casually tosses it. Of course you guys haven't seen it before. That's because this medicinal pill is something that I created. Original creation. Mayan raises her hand, and a talisman appears in her left hand. This is my father's signature talisman unique to the #1 shop under the heavens. His right hand gently caught the pill falling from the sky. This is the signature pill unique to my old man's #1 under heaven store. These two can be considered a set. Now, do you know what this pill is? Everyone stared blankly. Suddenly, several people cried out in unison, barrier-breaking pill. Yes. Anyone who had been to the Tianguang ruins and heard of Yap Liangqin and Laozi's #1 shop in the world would know about it. Who doesn't know what's the most popular talisman in the world's #1 shop? It was the barrier-breaking talisman. No one had ever heard of such a talisman since the beginning of the cultivation world. With enough talismans, it could assist a cultivator below the core formation stage to advance. The only one who could draw up a barrier-breaking talisman was Yi Liangqin. And now, this abnormal evildoer, not only could she draw up a barrier-breaking talisman. Chapter 2080. He had actually refined an even more powerful and terrifying bottleneck-breaking pill. God, is this person really omniscient and omnipotent? In fact, these people don't know that when Mayan was in the Yanwu continent, she also created a filter of barrier breaking. Filter of barrier breaking talisman, barrier breaking pill. 3 completely different items, but in terms of effectiveness, they were all of the same series, the same set. That was why Mayan said that she would refine the elixir that she was most familiar with. He had already sold 2 continents, how could he not be familiar with it? Mu Yan casually tosses the elixir and talisman in her hand to one side, and slowly stands up. Her gaze sweeps over everyone present, and her clear voice resounds in everyone's ears like ice and jade striking against each other. Now, does anyone still doubt that I am not Yi Liangqin? The entire great hall of the chaotic tower was completely silent. Did anyone still suspect that she was Yap Liangqin? How could he doubt it? She had even concocted a bottleneck-breaking pill. The effect was exactly the same as the barrier-breaking talisman. No, it should be said that it was an advanced version of the barrier-breaking talisman. You said that you suspect that she is not Yap Liangqin. If you have the ability, you can also make a barrier-breaking talisman compatriot elixir. After a long time, Zhou Daoyi slowly let out a breath. Looks like there's no doubt about Yi Liangqin's identity now. Just as he finished speaking, the entire chaotic pagoda shook violently. Even the 6-star pagoda on the side and the entire flying dragon city started to shake. Everyone's faces changed, as they lifted their heads to look. The profound heaven bead had finally condensed successfully. The top of the chaotic tower was so high that it pierced through the clouds. Looking up, there was only an endless staircase with no end in sight. But now, a dazzling light shone from above. At the same time, the Tian Mo Qin in Mayan space vibrates violently, constantly flying upwards. It seemed to be agitated, but also like excitement and desire. Inside the chaotic tower, Mu Yan had no way of contacting 7 brilliance. But even if she thought about it, she knew that the brat must be shouting in the space. He threatened her that if she did not obtain the profound heaven pearl, she would definitely die. Soon, the dazzling light at the top of the pagoda slowly converged, gradually condensing into a dark blue pearl. Slowly, it flew downwards. The moment they saw the pearl, many of them stared blankly. This is the treasure of heaven and earth, the mysterious heaven orb. Even Chu Tianyu, who had already lost all hope, was breathing heavily. This was something that he had dreamt of day and night. It was his and his mother's only hope of escaping hell. If he could obtain the profound heaven orb, would he be able to obtain redemption? Not to mention Yutsuanjian and Elder Song, whose eyes were already filled with greed. The mysterious heavenly pearl slowly hovered above a jade box in the center of the hall. As the light dissipated, it turned into an ordinary blue stone. But even though it didn't emit any light or spiritual energy fluctuations, it made people crazily want it. Zhou Daoyi swallowed his saliva, instinctively wanting to touch the blue stone. But as if he suddenly thought of something, he turns his head with difficulty to look at Mayan, and says in a deep voice, "Miss June, no. Yi Liangqin, the mysterious heaven orb is yours, please take it." Mayan nods, restraining the agitation in her heart and the restlessness of the Tian Mo Qin. She walks towards the mysterious heaven bead. However, she had only taken 2 steps. A strong gust of qi ruthlessly attacked her. Mayan's reaction is extremely fast, and in the nick of time, she flies back several meters. Only then does she manage to avoid the attack. Chapter 2081. Even so, there was still a wound on Mayan's arm. It was so deep that the bone could be seen. Mayan's eyes darkened as she looked up at Yutsuanjin. Judging from the sword move just now, Yutsuanjin's strength was at least at the out-of-body stage. Moreover, he was a practitioner at the out-of-body stage who was several times stronger than Lan Feng. He was by no means a match for the current Mayan. The vice dean of the Dragon Soaring Academy withdrew the flying sword in his hand and revealed a fierce expression. He looked at her with a sneer. "You're just a silly girl. Who said you're qualified to take the mysterious heaven bead? Junior sister. Junior sister, are you all right?" Ling Yuma was furious and glared at Yu Tsuanjin. You can't compete openly, so you want to snatch it shamelessly. So the Dragon Soaring Academy of the Ziyun realm is such a shameless thing. Not to mention the members of the Carefree team. Even the mentors of the Dragon Soaring Academy and the members of the Qilin team were stunned. Zhou Daoi's face darkened. Yu Tsuanjin, what are you doing? The mysterious heaven bead belongs to the Lord of 6 Stars. This is the rule left by the Emperor, and no one can violate it. Yu Tsuanjin ignored him and turned to grab the mysterious heaven bead. However, before he could get close, Zhou Daoi's body had already emitted a sword radiance. It was so powerful that it forced him back a few meters. The Dean of the Dragon Soaring Academy, who usually looked like a nice guy, now looked cold. Yu Tsuanjin, are you really going to disregard the Emperor's order? Yu Tsuanjin's face turned blue and white. He lowered his eyes to hide the anger and urgency in them. When he looked up again, these emotions had been restrained. He said respectfully, I don't mean to disobey the Emperor. But who Yi Liangqin is, isn't it still uncertain? This little girl said that it's a bottleneck-breaking elixir. Who can prove it? Besides, even if this elixir can help people advance, is it better than the golden black elixir? Yes, yes. Elder Song came back to his senses and shouted, ask anyone who's more valuable, a 7th grade golden crow pill or a 6th grade pill that no one has ever heard of. The answer is definitely the golden crow pill. In my opinion, Tian Yu is the winner of this competition. He is Yap Liangqin, the one who should get the mysterious heaven orb. This time, not to mention Mu Yan and the others. Even Instructor Long Ting and the members of the Qilin team could tell that something was wrong. These two people were clearly pestering endlessly, wanting to let Chu Tianyu obtain the profound heaven pearl no matter what. Vice Dean Zhu's face darkened. Vice Dean Yu, Elder Song, that's enough. Not only are you guys losing face, but you're also losing face for Long Ting. Saying that, he turned towards Mayan and said in a gentle voice, I believe that you are Yi Liangqin, take the mysterious heaven orb. Who dares? Before Vice President Zhu could finish his words, Yu Tsuanjin bellowed. At this moment, there was a bright red paper crane in his hand. With a trace of madness on his face, Yu Tsuanjin raised the crane in his hand high and said with a loud voice. Chu Tianyu is the crown prince of the Dingwa Manor. This mysterious heaven orb clearly belongs to His Royal Highness, but you want to take it by force and give it to someone else. Do you think the Dingwa Marquis will let it go if he knows all this? If you insist on giving the mysterious heaven orb to a little girl, then don't blame me for informing the Dingwa Marquis at once. At that time, I'm afraid that even the whole school would be in question, let alone the face of the Longting Academy. Chapter 2082. As soon as he said that, the atmosphere in the chaotic tower instantly froze. The faces of the principals and mentors of Longting were as black as the bottom of a pot. They were furious, but there was also a faint fear and dread in their hearts. Who was Dingwa Marquis Chu Xinyan? He was ranked 3rd on the Blue Sky Roll, the most authoritative ranking in the Purple Cloud realm. There were many legends about Chu Xinyan. Some said that he had lived for more than 300 years and had long surpassed the limit of a tribulation stage practitioner. Some said that he controlled an extremely powerful army of practitioners. If he attacked, it would not be a problem for him to destroy the Lan family empire. Some also said that although Dingwa Marquis Chu Xinyan looked gentle and elegant now, few people knew how bloody and cruel he was in the past, torturing and killing countless practitioners to prolong his life. No matter whether these legends were true or not. But one thing was for sure. Dingwa Marquis Chu Xinyan was very powerful. He was so powerful that all the aristocratic families and sects did not dare to touch him easily. If Chu Xinyan really wanted to attack Longting, then Longting would be in danger. Zhou Dui pointed at Yutsuanjin and Elder Song, who was standing next to him, and said in a trembling voice, So you have been the henchman of Dingwa Marquis for a long time. He suddenly looked at Chu Tianyu and said through gritted teeth, What about you? Do you think so too? The mysterious heaven bead should be yours. Chu Tianyu's heart was in a mess. When the Qilin team lost, he really wanted to admit everything and bear his sins. However, Yutsuanjin's threat reminded him of his mother, who was controlled by Chu Xinyan. He could disregard his own reputation in life, but how could he ignore his mother? He had accepted his fate and was at the mercy of Yutsuanjin and the others like a puppet. But when the mysterious heaven bead appeared, his originally dead heart began to beat again. As long as he gave the mysterious heaven bead to Chu Xinyan, would the immortal Chu Xinyan let him and his mother go? He, Chu Tianyu, was afraid of death, cowardly, and despicable. When the only hope of survival was placed in front of him, greed and hope floated in his heart again. But how could such a despicable and cowardly face the Qilin team who worshipped him? How would the girl whom he pretended to look down on him? Chu Tianyu's eyes were filled with struggle. All of a sudden, Yutsuanjin's sneering voice came into his ears, Your Highness, from the moment you decided to pretend to be Yi Liangqin, you have no way out. Do you think that Jun Mayan or the Qilin team would forgive you? Chu Tianyu's face instantly paled. Yes. Once he stepped into the darkness, would he be able to return to the light? He was merely deceiving himself and others. The corners of Chu Tianyu's mouth hooked up into a self-deprecating smile. He slowly closed his eyes, and when he opened them again, there was already a bit more ruthlessness in his eyes. Principal Zhou, although my golden crow pill can't let people advance immediately, it can condense the primordial qi of both metal and fire. Just now, I said that the golden crow pill is inferior to Jun Mayan's elixir because it's my first time refining a 7th grade elixir, so there's still room for improvement. But I don't think that my talent in alchemy is worse than Jun Mayan's. I am the successor of the Herb King, Yi Liangqin. The hall was silent for a moment, and everyone looked at Chu Tianyu in shock. Especially the members of the Kirin team, they simply couldn't believe it. Chu Tianyu's performance just now had clearly indirectly admitted that he wasn't Yi Liangqin. But now, he went back on his words. Chapter 2083. Murong Shui suddenly shouted, Big Brother Chu, what's wrong with you? Is the dark heaven orb really that important to you? It's so important that you don't even want your conscience and dignity. Chu Tianyu said calmly, Yes, the dark heaven orb is very important to me. I am Yi Liangqin, and the dark heaven orb belongs to me. What's wrong with me taking back what belongs to me? Everyone in the Kirin team was shocked and stared at him in disbelief. Then, the shock in their eyes slowly turned into disappointment. Yutsuanjin and Elder Song, on the other hand, burst into laughter and patted Chu Tianyu's shoulder in satisfaction. Dean, did you hear that? His Royal Highness is Yi Liangqin, and Yi Liangqin is His Royal Highness. If any of you refuse to let him take the dark heaven orb. Yutsuanjin sneered and waved the paper crane in his hand, then wait for the Marquis to come and settle the score with you, puff. A sword light shot into the tower from outside and instantly penetrated Yutsuanjin's hand. Ah! Yutsuanjin screamed as his entire right hand and the paper crane in his hand exploded into pieces. Blood dripped down from his amputated wrist. Yutsuanjin's face twisted in pain as he looked toward the door in horror. A man with snow-white hair, who looked to be in his 30s, slowly walked into the chaotic tower. Elder Kong. Zhou Dui almost cried tears of joy when he saw the man. The other mentors of the Soaring Dragon Academy also shouted, Deputy Dean Kong. Kong Yuanzhou, the Deputy Dean of the Soaring Dragon Academy, was not responsible for any affairs of the Academy, but was the most powerful man in the Soaring Dragon Academy. 10 years ago, he was ranked 8th on the blue sky roll. Since then, there was no record of him fighting, and no one knew his real cultivation level. Yu Tsuinjin and Elder Song stared at him in horror. Deputy Dean Kong, what are you doing? Are you trying to go against the Marquis by taking the Dark Heaven Orb from the Crown Prince? The two shouted for a long time, but Kong Yuanzhou didn't even look at them. Instead, he walked straight to Mu Yen. Then, under everyone's shocked gaze, Kong Yuanzhou slightly bowed his head and said solemnly, Miss June, I've heard a lot about you. I finally get to meet you. Everyone present was dumbfounded. What was going on? Why does Kong Yuanzhou seem to know Mayan, and why is he so respectful towards her? Kong Yuanzhou is a crossing tribulation stage cultivator while June Mayan is merely a gold core stage little girl. No matter how he thought about it, this scene was too unbelievable, right? Don't say that the others are confused, Mayan is even more confused. Do I know him? However, this voice sounded a little familiar. She suddenly had a flash of inspiration. The one who arranged for us to stay in Tianlang Palace was you. That's right. Kong Yuanzhou smiled sincerely. I wonder if Miss June is satisfied with your stay in Tianlang Palace. After a pause, he continued, Tianlang Palace has been bound to your soul from the very beginning. If you are not satisfied, you can change it to your heart's desire. Bound to her divine soul. Mayan is startled, then a thought faintly emerges in her mind. But before he could ask anything, Yu Tsuinjin bellowed, Kong Yuanzhou, don't think you can do whatever you want just because you're a tribulation cultivator. You are ranked 8th on the green sky list, while Master Ho is ranked 3rd. If you really dare to covet the things of the Marquis's mansion, Master Ho will definitely destroy your Dragon Ascension Academy. Kong Yuanzhou narrowed his eyes and slowly turned his head. But in a flash, his face no longer has the gentleness and respect he showed to Mayan just now. Chapter 2084. Even though he had a light smile on his face, it was enough to suffocate people. This was the strength of a tribulation-transcending cultivator. There was no need for words, no need for spiritual power fluctuations, and no need for pressure to make you feel fear. Kong Yuanzhou's gaze shifted and landed on Chu Tianyu. Chu Tianyu, let me ask you again, are you Yi Liangqin? Chu Tianyu couldn't stop his body from trembling. The fear in his heart that was on the verge of collapse made him want to immediately kneel down and surrender. But in the end, he gritted his teeth, clenched his fists, and said hoarsely, yes. I am Yi Liangqin. The mysterious heaven pearl is mine. The people of the Xiaoyao school couldn't hold it in anymore. They cursed, Yi Liangqin my ass. How shameless. Shamelessness seems to be the tradition of the Dingwa manor. From the master to the servants, they are all the same. Sun Yuanzhou chuckled, you said you are Yap Liangqin. All right then, I'll give you the profound heaven pearl. Go and get it. As soon as he said this, everyone's expression changed. Elder Kong. Zhou Daoi said anxiously, you don't know what happened just now. There's no doubt that June Mayan is Yi Liangqin. Kong Yuanzhou waved his hand. I know. There's no need to worry. He looked at Chu Tianyu with a faint smile. Didn't you hear what I said? You can go and take the mysterious heaven pearl. As long as you can take it away, it will be yours. And you are Yi Liangqin. Chu Tianyu swallowed a mouthful of saliva, his body stiffly turning towards the profound heaven pearl. As soon as the blue bead entered his eyes, his blood seemed to boil. Yu Tsuinjin did not even care about the wound on his hand. He shouted excitedly, Prince, quick, go get the dark heaven bead. As long as he gave the mysterious heaven bead to the Marquis, he would have done a great service. What was a mere hand? Master Ho naturally had elixirs that could heal his hand. When Lang Yuma and the others saw this, they were about to explode in anger. Damn it, I thought that a good person had come, but it turns out that they are all fucking jackals of the same tribe. Junior sister, these bastards want to swallow your things. Let's fight it out with them. The others were also filled with righteous indignation. Even the most composed Yun Ruhan, who'd been shouting about keeping a low profile, couldn't remain calm. He had bullied their junior sister again and again in front of them. Did he really think that the Xiaoyao school had no one? Do you believe that I won't invite little Marshal Uncle and Teacher Mo over and blast your lousy dragon soaring academy into smithereens? The people of the Xiaoyao sect all took out their weapons, and their faces were filled with determination, as if they were saying, I'll die with you bastards. But in next to no time, a jade white hand obstructed their path. Mu Yan looks at Kong Yuanzhou and says thoughtfully, don't be impatient, things may not be what you think. On the other side, Chu Tianyu had already walked in front of the mysterious Heaven Pearl. His eyes were slightly red as he slowly extended his trembling hand towards the profound Heaven Pearl. On the back of his hand, the veins on his forehead and neck were throbbing non-stop. It was obvious how excited and nervous he was at this moment. Profound Heaven Orb. He was finally going to obtain the Profound Heaven Bead. As long as he obtained the Profound Heaven Bead, he would be able to obtain redemption, and his mother would also be able to obtain redemption. His fingertips touched the ice-cold surface of the orchid stone. In the next moment, a dazzling ray of light burst out from the stone. Chu Tianyu's entire body was fiercely ejected, and he crashed into a table. Immediately after, an ancient and deep voice that carried a desolate aura resounded in everyone's ears. Chapter 2085. The Lord of Six Stars has successfully condensed the mysterious Heaven Bead. All teachers and students of Dragon Soar Academy must guard it with all their might. Do not covet it. Anyone who covets it will be severely punished. Those who refuse to repent will be punished. Chu Tianyu suddenly spat out a mouthful of blood. His abdomen burst open, flesh and blood splattering everywhere. His face was deathly pale, his eyes staring blankly in the direction of the mysterious Heaven Bead, as if he had lost his mind. Yutsuinjian and Elder Song were aghast, their mouths agape. They couldn't make a sound for a long time. Kong Yuanzhou looked at the three mockingly. After a while, he sneered, the Hex Star Pagoda has a spirit. It has guarded Dragon Soar for thousands of years. The Emperor ordered him to keep the Chaotic Tower and the mysterious Heaven Bead for the Lord of Six Stars. I'm afraid you've already forgotten what the Hex Star Pagoda's spirit said when the mysterious Heaven Bead was condensed. Do you really think that the Emperor's things can be easily coveted? Inside the Chaotic Tower, there was a deathly silence. Chu Tianyu slumped to the ground. Suddenly, he grinned and laughed lowly. Tears mixed with blood slid down from the corners of his eyes. His laughter grew louder and louder. His voice was hoarse with madness and sorrow. Ha 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 ha. Chu Tianyu, who do you think you are? What Yi Liang Qin? What Lord of Six Stars? You're a joke. A complete joke. Ha 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 ha. Everyone in the Qilin team looked at him with complicated expressions. There was anger, pain, and pity in their eyes. Murong Shuao wanted to say something, but in the end, she turned her head and bit her lip. Kong Yuanzhou looked at Mayan. His sarcastic expression immediately became gentle. Miss June, please take back the mysterious Heaven Bead that belongs to you. Mayan took a deep breath and slowly walked towards the mysterious Heaven Bead. The closer she got to the blue bead, the more she could feel the vibration of the Tian Mo Qin space inside her. It was as if the powerful sacred object that had dominated the three realms couldn't hold back anymore. It wanted to rush out and devour a part of it. The entire Chaotic Tower was silent. Everyone's eyes were firmly fixed on Mayan. Everyone wanted to know. The mysterious heaven bead that sent Chu Tianyu flying and made him spit blood, would it allow Mayan to touch it? Was this beautiful young girl the real King Yiliangchen? The girl slowly raised her hand. His slender hands were as white as jade, and his joints were well proportioned, as if they were carved from the most translucent white jade in the world. His fingertips landed lightly on the dark blue stone. Everyone held their breaths. Then, to everyone's surprise, nothing happened. The chaotic tower was silent. The mysterious heaven pearl in Mu Yan's hands and the jade box beneath it were also silent. There was neither light nor vibration. Oh. Everyone looked at each other, dumbfounded. So, this proves that Mayan is Yiliangchen. Why does it feel so unreal? However, no one knew. Under the appearance of silence, Mayan actually hears a sound in her ears. We respectfully welcome the Lord of 6 Stars to the chaotic tower. This is the profound heaven pearl. May I ask, Lord of 6 Stars, should we announce to the world the true ownership of the chaotic tower and mysterious heaven pearl? Mayan immediately recognized the voice. It belonged to the 6 Stars Tower's artifact spirit. She promptly said, "No need." The true ownership that the 6 Stars artifact spirit was talking about was obviously her identity as Mayan. What kind of joke was this? She couldn't hide it enough. Why would it announce it on its own initiative? May I ask, Lord of 6 Stars, should we take away the chaotic tower? Chapter 2086. Mu Yan blinked and looked around in surprise. This tower is mine too. Naturally. 6-star equipment spirit replied, the Emperor has decreed that the chaotic tower and mysterious heaven pearl belong to 6-star Lord. In Flying Dragon City, the 6-star order surpasses all rules and is only restricted by the Emperor. You can naturally take the chaotic tower. Only restricted by the Emperor. Mu Yan's heart stirred. Who is the Emperor? The Emperor is the Emperor. He is supreme, and no one can disobey his orders. Mu Yan thought for a while and changed the topic. What is the use of this chaotic tower? 6-star equipment spirit was silent for a while before replying. The chaotic tower is a place to cultivate and temper one's spirit. It has 2 functions, cultivation and training. Cultivating in the chaotic tower will be twice as fast as cultivating outside. By training in the chaotic tower, one can accumulate combat experience and condense a true killing intent of blood and fire. Mu Yan asked doubtfully, isn't this similar to 6-star tower? Replying 6-star Lord, the chaotic tower is different. The ancient voice said slowly, 6-star tower cultivates and selects true geniuses. As for the chaotic tower, it is called the chaotic tower because it is formed by the chaos and the unity of all desolations. The chaotic tower does not nurture a single strong cultivator, but an invincible army. Devour suddenly shrunk back. You're saying that the chaotic tower can accommodate many people to cultivate and train at the same time? Yes, according to 6-star Lord's level, your strength is equivalent to level 7 Nihility Immortal and can accommodate 100 people. Strength is equivalent to level 9 Nihility Immortal and below Golden Immortal and can accommodate 1,000 people. Strength is equivalent to Golden Immortal and above, can accommodate 10,000 people. 6-star equipment spirit was still reporting the number of people that the chaotic tower could accommodate at each level. Mu Yan's mind was already in turmoil, and she could not take it in. Being able to accommodate 100, 1,000, or even 10,000 people to train at the same time, did that mean that she could let the Netherflame army and Liangchen army enter the chaotic tower to train? However, level 7 Nihility Immortal, she had heard from Di Ming that it represented tribulation, or at least peak leaving body stage. It was still far from allowing the chaotic tower to accommodate 1,000 people. But just 100 people was not bad. Mu Yen suppressed the excitement in her heart and asked with her divine sense, "Can I take the chaotic tower away now?" "Yes." The 6-star pagoda artifact spirit paused for a moment, then said, "But please allow me to remind Lord of 6-star that the chaotic pagoda is a rare, demon god artifact. Even a sovereign cannot fully control it. Lord of 6-star, your current cultivation is too low. If you carry the chaotic pagoda with you, I'm afraid you won't be able to completely conceal its aura. For a treasure like the chaotic pagoda, if it was unable to conceal its aura, it would naturally be coveted by others. But Mayan's focus is somewhat different, a demon god artifact. She has also heard Han Yu mention the levels of magic weapons in the Shushan continent. Although her understanding isn't very comprehensive, she's certainly never heard of the demon god artifact. The so-called demon god artifact is a type of magic treasure that is completely different from the artifact forging system of the 3 realms. In the world, demonic god artifacts were extremely rare. Generally, demon god tools would only recognize one true master, and they could grow stronger with the growth of their master's strength. Whether it was spiritual power, demon power, or evil spirit, they could all be absorbed by them. Some of the more special, demon divine weapons, have their own weapon spirits. Their true power is even more unimaginable. Even divine objects cannot compare to them. Mu Yan almost immediately thinks of Xiaobao's Bixia sword. Chapter 2087. Lord Ho's Desperate Strike. 1. However, at this moment, the people within the chaotic tower were already in an uproar due to this long-lost silence. Yutsuanjian and Elder Song stared at the mystical heaven orb in her hand with blazing eyes, as if they wanted to pounce on it. Mu Yan could only gather her thoughts and ask one last question. "So you mean to leave the chaotic tower here?" "Yes and no." The ancient voice said respectfully, "The more people who train in the chaotic tower, the more killing intent, spiritual energy, and divine sense will remain in the tower. It will be more beneficial to the Lord of 6-star's army. I suggest that you place the Hex Star Tower in Divine Elephant City for all cultivators to train in until the day you take it back." Mu Yan's eyes grew brighter and brighter, and her lips curled into a sly smile. "All right, I'll leave the chaotic tower in the center of Divine Elephant City. Grandpa Artifact Spirit, please look after it for me." "Anne." She paused and was about to continue when Yutsuanjin suddenly roared. When the Lord of 6-stars arrived, heaven and earth shook, and the sky was filled with multicolored light. The entire soaring dragon bead belonged to Yi Liangqin. But now that this woman has the mystical heaven orb, the artifact spirit and the chaotic tower have no reaction at all. Doesn't that prove that she's not Yi Liangqin? "Yes, yes." Elder Song's eyes widened, and he murmured, "Who knows if she's the real Yi Liangqin? The mystical heaven orb can't be given to her." Suddenly, he made up his mind, and his cultivation erupted, and he pounced at Mu Yan. "Let me keep the mystical heaven orb for now." However, before Elder Song could touch Mu Yan, Sun Yuanzhou had already waved his sword. Elder Song was only at level 1 of Leaving Aperture, while Sun Yuanzhou was already at Tribulation Passing. This sword strike, with only sword energy, directly knocked Elder Song to the ground. Elder Song crashed into a pillar, and he was dizzy at first, then he screamed. His right hand, which was about to snatch the mystical heaven orb, was sent flying. He looked at Sun Yuanzhou with shock and fear, and his body couldn't help but tremble. "Kong Yuanzhou, what are you doing?" Yutsuanjin shrieked, "Things have always been suspicious." Elder Song wanted to take back the dark heaven bead for safekeeping and give it to Mayan after confirming her identity. "What's wrong with that? How could you be so vicious as to chop off Elder Song's arm? What are your intentions?" Kong Yuanzhou sneered, "Chu Tianyu doesn't have the ability to obtain the mysterious heaven pearl, he isn't Yi Liangqin. Young Miss June obtained the profound heaven bead and did not suffer from any backlash. This naturally proves that she is Yi Liangqin. What's there to doubt about? Holding his broken arm, Yu Tsuanjin glanced at Chu Tianyu and Elder Song. All of a sudden, his eyes were filled with viciousness and his face twisted. If he could not obtain the mysterious heaven bead today, he would not be able to complete the Marquis's instructions. His fate would be even more miserable than death. Rather than that, he might as well go all out. All of a sudden, Yu Tsuanjin raised his hand and grabbed at Qilin and the members of Carefree Squad. In the blood slaughter sword formation, the members of the Carefree Squad had long since trained their reflexes to dodge danger at any time, so they quickly dodged. But the Qilin Squad was not so lucky. Duan Wenbin, Chu Yuanlei, and Murong Shui were the strongest among them, so they barely managed to dodge. But the others were all wrapped around the neck by a black steel whip in Yu Tsuanjin's hand, and dragged directly in front of him. Give me the mysterious heaven bead, or I'll make sure that these brats of the Qilin Squad die without a corpse. Chapter 2088. The desperate blow of Master Ho and his team, too. Yu Tsuanjin's usually gentle and elegant face twisted crazily. He tightened the steel whip in his hand, and the Qilin team immediately wailed in pain. These Qilin team are the chosen ones of the big families. If they die, the big families and sects will never let it go, and the soaring dragon will be finished. Make your choice. Do you want the lives of these brats or the dark heaven bead? Yu Tsuanjin's move was out of everyone's expectation. Zhou Daoyi and the others were livid and incredulous. Even Sun Yuanzhou frowned. Yu Tsuanjin, do you know what you are doing? Giving the dark heaven bead to the Lord of 6 Stars is an iron rule set by the Emperor. In the Soaring Dragon, the Emperor's order is the supreme rule, and no one can disobey it. Are you going to disobey the Emperor now? Emperor. Emperor. Ha ha ha. What Emperor? Don't be ridiculous. Yu Tsuanjin threw his head back and laughed. How can there be an emperor in this world? The emperor disappeared 1,000 years ago and never showed up again. No one knows whether he is dead or not. Only you still follow these dead rules. Sun Yuanzhou's face suddenly darkened. He stared at Yu Tsuanjin, and the blade in his hand was faintly discernible. Yu Tsuanjin tightened the steel whip in his hand again, and Xue Huailu, who was at the periphery, immediately wailed like a pig being slaughtered. Blood gushed out from his neck. Xue Huailu was so scared that his tears and snot flowed out, and the stinky liquid flowed directly from his crotch. He shouted hysterically, I don't want to die, help me. Help me. Give him the dark heaven bead, Jun Mayan, do you hear me? Give him the dark heaven bead. Mayan sneered and did not even look at him. Hatred surged in Xue Huailu's eyes, and his face was ferocious. His hatred for her was far greater than that of Yu Tsuanjin, who kidnapped him. But he could do nothing about Mayan, and could only look at Zhou Daoyi and the others. Dean, help me. I am the grandson of the Xue family. If I die, the Xue family will not let Soaring Dragon off. Su Yi, Shi Jingfeng, and the others also repeatedly begged for mercy. They also conveniently scolded Mayan for not helping when she was in danger. His cowardly face caused Duan Wenbin and the other two to frown. Their eyes were filled with shame and disgust. On the other hand, Zhu Chongliang and Jin Zhonghao clenched their teeth tightly and didn't utter a word. Zhou Daoyi, the vice deans, and the others all had conflicted expressions on their faces. Xue Huailu's and the others' identities were too special. If they really died in the Soaring Dragon sect, the various aristocratic families and sects would definitely not let the matter rest. They looked hesitantly at Sun Yuanzhou. Kong Yuanzhou sneered, Yu Tsuanjin, kill me if you can, but in Longting, the Emperor's order is everything. I, Kong Yuanzhou, will bear all the consequences. It never occurred to Yu Tsuanjin that Kong Yuanzhou would not compromise even when he was in a life-and-death struggle. If Kong Yuanzhou had swallowed the dark heaven orb, he would have accepted it. But he, an expert of the green sky role and a practitioner of the crossing tribulation stage, had risked everything to protect a powerless young girl. Yu Tsuanjin was about to lose his mind. Kong Yuanzhou, have you lost your mind? For this woman, you don't even care about the safety of Soaring Dragon. Who the hell is this bitch? Did she seduce you? Is she your little lover? Is that why you are protecting her at all costs? Kong Yuanzhou's face suddenly changed. His anger was mixed with fear, and his body was trembling. He was even more agitated than when he saw Yu Tsuanjin kidnap the members of the Qilin team. P.S. There is one more chapter. I'm still writing. Chapter 2089. Greetings to the Emperor, which? Emperor. You shut up. You're the crazy one, shut up. How could Miss June and how could? Everyone was a little dumbfounded. When had they ever seen Elder Kong speak so incoherently and lose his head out of fear? Yu Tsuanjin, however, laughed sharply. Ah ha ha, did I hit the nail on the head? So you're feeling guilty. Or rather, not your lover, but Lan Feng's. Lan Feng cursed angrily, you're slandering me. Yu Tsuanjin, don't go too far. Ha ha ha, as early as the beginning of the Deer Cry banquet, I heard that this shameless woman hooked up with men everywhere. Not only did she hook up with the royal family of the Lan family, but also the people of the Seuss family were bewitched by her. That's why she sent gifts to a little-known team one after another at the beginning of the Deer Cry banquet. And you, Kong Yuanzhou, you arranged for a small team from the Blue Realm to live in the Tianlang Palace. That's the forbidden area of the entire Longting, where no one is qualified to set foot. But you specifically pointed out that Mayan should live there. Who would believe that you have no affair with this woman? I think you've long been bewitched by your little lover, and you've even forgotten that you're an elder of the Longting, haven't you? Yu Tsuanjin was now like a cornered dog jumping over the wall, wishing he could bite at will and drag everyone down with him. However, his words caused many people present to reveal doubtful expressions. Indeed, the gifts of the Seuss and the royal family of the Lan family aside, Kong Yuanzhou's action of arranging for the carefree team to live in the Tianlang Palace was really too strange. In the Divine Elephant City, everyone knew that the Tianlang Palace was the forbidden area of the Longting, or rather, the Holy Land. Even Kong Yuanzhou dared not set foot there. The carefree team was just a small team from the Blue Realm. What qualifications did they have to live in the Tianlang Palace? Yu Tsuanjin proudly looked at Kong Yuanzhou, who was trembling with anger, and his obscene and vicious eyes turned to Mayan. Mayan, I don't know if you're Yi Liangqin, the Lord of 6 Stars, but I admire your ability to seduce men. However, with your country-toppling beauty, you do have the capital to bewitch people. Yu Tsuanjin licked his lips. Why don't you let me have a taste of ecstasy? I guarantee that you'll be able to live a good life if you follow me. It'll be much better than following that boring old fart, Kong Yuanzhou. Mu Yan slightly narrowed her eyes, a cold light overflowing from the bottom of her eyes. The people from the Xiaoyao sect were furious. Their killing intent surged, and they didn't even want to say anything. They just wanted to kill this shameless bastard. However, before they could make a move, the entire chaotic tower suddenly shook violently. A pressure so powerful that it could suffocate people instantly exploded in the main hall. This pressure was like a raging storm, sweeping away all obstacles and unstoppable. Other than those who were at Leaving Aperture Realm, Advanced Leaving Aperture Realm, and those from the Xiaoyao sect, the others didn't even have the chance to make a sound before they fainted. Yu Tsuanjin suddenly spat out a mouthful of blood. He could not even hold the steel whip in his hand and it fell to the ground. He raised his head in horror and shouted in a trembling voice, Who are you? Kong Yuanzhou's pupils suddenly shrank, and he abruptly knelt down. Zhou Daoi and the vice deans, who were barely conscious, opened their mouths slightly and stared blankly at a dazzling light slowly bursting out from the center of the hall, which eventually condensed into a tall figure. When the light dissipated, an incomparably handsome face was revealed. However, the man clearly had a face that could turn all living things upside down, but the first thing that everyone noticed was not his face, nor was it his bottomless blue eyes. Instead, it was an overwhelming pressure that made people want to submit and not have the slightest desire to resist. Kong Yuanzhou's whole face was almost stuck to the ground, and he said in a trembling voice, Greetings, Emperor. The voice was like a heavy hammer that knocked on everyone's soul. Zhou Daoi and the vice dean's knees softened, and they knelt down with a thud. There was only one sentence echoing in his mind, Emperor. Emperor. Which Emperor? Di Mingju's eyes turned and fell on the completely stiff face of Yu Zuanjin. The corners of his mouth hooked up into a cold smile like that of a demon from the ninth heaven. You want to let my fiancé have a taste of ecstasy? Why don't you tell me? Chapter 2090. All of a sudden, Yu Zuanjin's body trembled and he even stopped breathing. His eyes rolled back, and his body fell limply to the ground. He muttered madly, Monarch. Monarch. Impossible. Impossible. How could this be? How could this be? Zhou Daoi and Yu Zuanjin were scared out of their wits. Even the people from the Xiaoyao sect were flabbergasted. Mo. Instructor Mo. Why is Teacher Mo here? Why does the elder of the Soaring Dragon sect call Teacher Mo Emperor? Although he's heard Han Yi and the others address Mo Ju as Jun Shang before. However, the people of the Xiaoyao sect didn't care at all. At this moment, they felt a tempestuous storm in their hearts, and they almost suspected that they were hallucinating. In the past 1,000 years, there had always been a legend on the road of cultivation that no one could surpass. At that time, the cultivation world was in a mess and wars were raging everywhere. Fiendish cultivators, spirit cultivators, and demonic beasts. The three sides wantonly slaughtered and fought, and a bloody and murderous aura pervaded the entire world. It was in such a chaotic world that a young man appeared. The man had a peerless appearance that could enchant all the women in the world, but he was as cold as an iceberg, and did not get close to women. At first, no one paid attention to the young man's appearance. But slowly, the man became stronger and stronger, and more people gathered under him. By the time the spirit cultivators, demonic cultivators, and demon beasts, who were addicted to war and blood, came to their senses, more than half of the cultivation continent was already under the man's control. For the first time in the cultivation world, there was a complete reshuffle. The man set the rules of the cultivation world. The weak could be prey to the strong, but the innocent could not be killed. They could be in opposing camps, but the mortals could not be harmed. Some refused to accept it, some violated it knowingly, and some disobeyed it on the surface. Of course, these people all had miserable endings. In just a few short years, the cruel and furious devil cultivators had either disappeared or remained silent. The spirit cultivators had no choice but to submit no matter how much they schemed against them. The demonic beasts even hid in the various mountain ranges, not daring to cause trouble again. The man had also established the 4 great academies, Soaring Dragon, Fengtian, Stellar, and Lingwu. He had planted one flame after another for the prosperity of the cultivators on this mainland. The cultivation world was restored to an unprecedented peace and tranquility. The mortals shed tears of gratitude, deeply engraved in their hearts. The spirit cultivators were sincerely convinced and followed him as their master. Everyone addressed this young man as Emperor. He was the only person in the history of the cultivation world who unified the entire continent. He was also the only person who had the qualifications to be addressed as the monarch. Junior sister. Yun Ruhan swallowed a mouthful of saliva. After a long while, her lips trembled as she asked with difficulty, Teacher Mo, he, who exactly is he? Mu Yan doesn't hear Yun Ruhan's voice at all. Her gaze was fixated on the man's handsome face, her heart pounding like a drum. How long has it been since I last saw him? It seemed like only a few months had passed, but she felt like years had passed. Mayan's emotions have always been restrained and rational. She also thought that her relationship with Di Mingju would always be like this. A thin stream flows for a long time. Take it calmly. Hold your hand and grow old together. But it was only at this moment that she realized that she could also be impulsive, yearn. Mu Yan slowly walked forward, her beautiful eyes like water. Her lips moved as she was about to speak. However, someone suddenly grabbed her waist and pressed her into his embrace. Chapter 2091. Yen, how many taboo have you committed these days? Ben Jun will settle the score with you in a moment. The man's deep voice whispered through gritted teeth in her ears. Mayan, who was just sad and sorrowful. If Bai Xia was here, he would definitely shout, My dear Jun Shangdaran, did you take the wrong script? Shouldn't you hug the beauty and say, Yen, I miss you so much? Then, a short absence makes the heart grow fonder, dry wood blazing fire. What's with settling the score with her? What score does she have to settle? Surely not, right? Di Mingju ignored Mayan's struggle and pressed her into his arms. His eyes once again looked at the few people who were still conscious in the hall. Zhou Daoi and the vice deans were still staring at the two, as if they were stupid. Sun Yuanzhou hurriedly raised his hand, Idiot, what are you waiting for? Hurry up and pay your respects to the emperor. Which emperor? In Longting Academy, who could be called the emperor by Sun Yuanzhou, who had the qualifications to make the top 10 experts of Blue Sky list kneel, other than the invincible emperor who once swept across the entire Shuzhen continent. Zhou Daoi trembled all over and banged his head on the ground. Greet the emperor. The vice deans couldn't even speak properly and almost fainted. Di Mingju said lightly, Now, do you still have any doubts about the identity of the Lord of 6 Stars? No. Absolutely not. The two of them shook their heads like a rattle drum. God, it's the Emperor. It really is the legendary Emperor. The maker and controller of the highest rules of Longting Academy. So, the Lord of 6 Stars, Yi Liangqin, is not only an underage girl, but also the Emperor's fiancée. Zhou Daoi and the vice deans felt dizzy. No wonder Mayan was so powerful. Talisman, elixir, fighting, she could do anything. So she's the Emperor's fiancée. A woman worthy of the Emperor, of course, couldn't be an ordinary person. No wonder Sun Yuanzhou let Mayan and the carefree team live in Tianlang Palace. It turns out that this place originally belonged to her fiancé. Rounding it up, it belongs to Mayan. If she doesn't live here, who else is qualified to live here? At this moment, Zhou Daoi felt extremely lucky. After June Mayan blew up several alchemy furnaces, he didn't go to her to punish her. Otherwise, he would be as dead as Yutsuanjin. No. It's impossible for you to be the real emperor. You're a fake, you must be a fake. I don't want to die, I can't die. Ah. All of a sudden, Yutsuanjin let out a hysterical roar and darted toward the door like an arrow leaving the bowstring. At this moment, he didn't care about anything else. He just wanted to escape. The primordial spirit in his body burned furiously, and it even floated out of his body. His speed was almost at the limit. With just one more step, the fresh air outside the chaotic tower would be right before his eyes. With just one more step, he would be able to fly and flee far away. A hopeful smile appeared on Yutsuinjin's face. However, the next moment, his smile froze on his face. His body strangely froze in mid-air, as if he was being pulled by something, unable to move. Yutsuinjin slowly lowered his head and looked at his own body. Faint blue lines crisscrossed on the surface of his body, and even his internal organs gradually emitted faint blue light. Ah! A scream was heard, but it stopped abruptly. Then, Yutsuinjin's whole body suddenly exploded. Chapter 2092. But there's no flesh and blood, no bones, no soul. It's as if they've evaporated, completely disappearing from the world. The entire chaotic tower is in absolute silence. Di Mingju slowly retracts his hand. Under everyone's dumbfounded gazes, he clasps Mayan's hand and turns to leave. With just one step, he's already at the entrance of the chaotic tower. Di Jun. Little junior sister. Several people call out from behind. Mayan turns around and makes a gesture to the Xiaoyao sect people. I'll explain things to you later. But before she can finish speaking, she suddenly soars into the air and is carried by Di Mingju. There's a dangerous sneer on the man's handsome face. Ben Jun hasn't seen you for so long, and you're still in the mood to look at unrelated people? Damn heartless woman. What's even worse is that he's about to leave again. Mayan coughs lightly. They're my fellow disciples, and also your students. How can they be unrelated people? Seeing Di Mingju's face as dark as the night, she quickly adds, of course, all the people in the world added together are not as important as you. Mayan doesn't care about the onlookers behind her. She wraps her arms around his neck and says with a smile, Di Mingju, I missed you. The girl's voice is soft and graceful, her smile languid and light. It seems to be just perfunctory words, but those peach blossom eyes, as clear as water, are genuinely filled with longing for him, as well as the joy of seeing him. Jun Shangdaren's mood is a little better. Snorting, his eyes sweep over the Xiaoyao sect people, and he reluctantly evaluates, domain fully opened, barely qualified. As soon as his voice falls, he takes a second step, and the two instantly disappear from the world. Yun Ruhan and the others look at each other, and see the joy on each other's faces. Teacher Mo actually praised them. You say, barely qualified isn't a compliment. What a joke, such a cold and arrogant mentor Mo. It's already not easy for him to say, barely qualified. As for how Mentor Emo suddenly became the Shuzhen continent's legendary emperor, and how the emperor is little junior sister's fiancé, they can always get an explanation from little junior sister. As soon as they enter the sleeping quarters of Tianlang Palace, Di Mingju presses the person against the wall, grabs those pink and tender lips, and fiercely kisses them. Their breathing became unstable and their bodies felt like they were on fire. Only then does Di Mingju reluctantly release her, and tightly encircles the young girl in his arms. He really wanted to fuse her into his flesh and blood and bring her back to the Shushan continent so that they could never be separated. Mu Yen quietly leans against his chest, her fingers gently circling his chest. However, very quickly, Di Mingju firmly grips the dishonest little hand. The man's dark and husky voice seems to contain a monstrous flame. He whispers in her ear, Yen Yen, although there's not much time left, if you continue to seduce me like this, Ben Jun will first make you unable to get out of bed before going back. There's no harm in that. Mu Yen. Di Mingju, where is your integrity? Where was the innocent man who didn't even know how to kiss and could only write, not betrothal gift, in a love letter? Cough. Have there been a lot of things happening in the polar domain recently? Mu Yan raises her head to look at the man, her eyes rippling with reluctance. Is there any danger? She already knows that the one standing here right now isn't Di Mingju himself, but his primordial spirit avatar. With Di Mingju's current cultivation, the primordial spirit avatar is already very solid, no different from a real person. Chapter 2093. However, there was a powerful spatial barrier separating the two continents. An essence soul avatar wouldn't be able to last long. The first few times she was in a daze in her dreams, she felt a familiar embrace her, but it quickly dissipated. That is Di Mingju. Mayan's words make Di Mingju's eyes sink. He recalled the turbulent boundary at the northern border of the polar domain and the abnormal number of poltergeist ghosts. However, nothing strange could be seen on his face. Instead, he leaned forward and said slowly, "It's just a trivial matter, how could it be dangerous?" Yen, are you doubting Ben Jun's strength? Mu Yan breathed a sigh of relief, but couldn't help but glare at him. Longting and 6 Stars Pagoda are yours, why didn't you tell me earlier? If she had known earlier, she wouldn't have tried so hard to prove Yi Liangchen's identity. Let Di Mingju directly give her the mysterious heaven bead and the chaotic tower. Di Mingju slightly narrows his eyes, and with a smile that isn't a smile, he looks at the little woman in front of him who has a confident and righteous face. Yen, I still haven't settled the accounts with you. Why are you questioning me? Settle accounts. What account? Di Mingju makes a grabbing motion in the air, and there's suddenly a stack of paper in his originally empty hand. The moment she saw the stack of papers, Mu Yan's face stiffens. On the paper, there were pictures of the Fu Sang team's charming naked men. Every one of them was as flirtatious as it could be, as sensual as it could be, and as fiery as it could be. Di Mingju gently shakes the paper in his hand. Yen, what did you promise me? Mayan dryly laughs. I didn't draw this, it was third brother who drew it. I didn't participate in the whole process, so what does it have to do with me? These papers were given to me by third senior brother to observe his painting skills. Yes, they were given to me by third senior brother. Di Mingju smiles, really? So, you haven't taken off other men's clothes or drawn other men? Mu Yan, no. Di Mingju stretched out his hand again. This time, only a piece of paper appeared in his hand. However, when she saw the drawing on the paper, Mu Yan's vision darkened. It was actually Longting's guard Zhang who had been put in a sack. Didn't she give this painting to Luoyu to burn and destroy the evidence? Luoyu, this unreliable person, had actually kept such crucial evidence. Wasn't he trying to get her killed? Di Mingju slowly approaches Mayan, stuffing the painting into her hands. This painting, was it also drawn by Chu Moli? The cold sweat on Mu Yan's forehead is about to fall. The corners of her mouth curled into a smile, thinking that she might as well just admit her mistake. In the next moment, someone squeezed in between the two of them. Immediately after, Di Mingju's thigh is hugged. A childish voice with a hint of coldness mixed with a hint of surprise shouted, "Daddy." Di Mingju expressionlessly lowers his head, looking at the little guy sandwiched between him and Mayan. Xiao Bao raised her head, her beautiful and exquisite little face flushed red. The blue eyes that are exactly the same as Di Mingju's are flickering, like butterfly wings gently flapping. Her eyes reflected her childlike admiration and longing for him. The lines on Di Mingju's face melt like ice, revealing a trace of gentleness. He reaches out to pick up the little guy, asking in a low voice, "Have you been cultivating well recently?" Xiao Bao obediently nods. That appearance of his is deadpan, but it's so cold and adorable that even a heart of stone would melt. However, when Di Mingju can't see, Xiao Bao quietly turns his head back and gives Mu Yan a look. Mu Yan beamed with joy, giving Xiao Bao a thumbs up. Chapter 2094. Baby, thank you so much for coming to save Nyangqin. However, just as Mayan's heart is half at ease, a hand suddenly presses on the back of her neck. Her whole body is buckled into Di Mingju's arms, and a punitive kiss falls on her earlobe. It's said to be a kiss, but it's actually a bite that's neither light nor heavy. Mayan cries out in pain, and her face turns red with anger. Di Mingju, this bastard, is he a dog? He actually bit her. Don't think that this is over. Yen, I'm not in a hurry. After we get married, we'll slowly settle these accounts one by one. Mayan stiffens. Is it too late for her to back out now and not be the mistress of the polar domain? Di Mingju looks at her faintly. If you dare to back out, Ben Jun will tie you to the bed, and you won't be able to get out of it for the rest of your life. Mayan, Xiao Bao blinks. I'm a child, I don't understand anything. After Mayan and Di Mingju leave, the chaotic tower directly banishes everyone out. Chu Tianyu staggers out of the tower, and sees two black-clothed people descending from the sky. They bow towards him. The Marquis asks you to return. Although they're speaking with honorifics, the two of them faintly form a pincer attack, blocking all his paths of retreat. Chu Tianyu gives a self-deprecating laugh, and coldly says, he's really impatient. Do you think I can escape from his palm? Let's go. The two immediately stand behind Chu Tianyu, one on the left and one on the right. One of them raises his hand, and a flying boat immediately hovers in the air. The man looks at Elder Song, who has a broken hand. Elder Song shivers, and trembles as he walks over. Just as Chu Tianyu is about to board the flying boat, he suddenly hears the voices of Duan Wenbin and the others behind him. Captain! Boss Chu! Chu Tianyu's body stiffens. He slowly turns around, and hoarsely says, I'm sorry, I'm not qualified to be your captain. I've shamed the Qilin team. Murong Shue's eyes redden. She wants to rush forward and grab his lapel, but she's stopped by the two cultivators sent by the Dingguo Marquis. Captain, why are you doing this? Murong Shue uncontrollably shouts, is the mysterious heaven bead that important to you? So important that you don't even want your dignity and conscience. Are you really the captain we know? Duan Wenbin also took a step forward and glanced at the two men in black. He gritted his teeth and said, Captain, do you have any difficulties? Can you tell us? We can help you solve any problem. That's right, Captain. Even if we're not strong enough, we still have our family. As long as you're our boss, you'll always be our boss. Murong Shue gritted her teeth and said slowly, Chu Tianyu, if you say you've let us down, you should at least tell us why you did it. In my heart, the captain of the Kirin team is a man of indomitable spirit, not a shameless villain who impersonates others. Chu Tianyu closed his eyes and blinked back the bitterness and wetness in his eyes. If possible, I hope to be teammates with you again in my next life. After saying this, Chu Tianyu directly jumped onto the flying boat. Before Murong Shue and the others could react, the flying boat shot out like an arrow from a bow. Dingguo Marquis residence. Do you have the ability to say what you just said one more time? Chu Tianyu expressionlessly lowered his eyes and said indifferently, the mysterious heaven bead is in the hands of the real Yi Liangqin. We'll never be able to get it back. Chu Xinyan glared at him, his body trembling slightly because of his extreme anger. Chapter 2095. Suddenly, he lifted his leg and kicked Chu Tianyu's stomach. Chu Tianyu's entire body flew out and crashed into a pillar. The bones in his body let out a crackling sound. The pillar collapsed and hit his head. Blood splattered everywhere. Chu Tianyu spat out a mouthful of blood. Both his legs were broken. He couldn't even stand up. But he smiled brightly. Even if you kill me, you won't be able to get the mysterious heaven bead. You won't be able to get the Pill King's inheritance. Chu Xinyan's eyes were filled with rage. He took a while to suppress it. Fine. You won't be able to get the mysterious heaven bead. You should know who Yi Liangqin is, right? Chu Tianyu wiped the blood off his mouth and smiled mockingly. I swore an oath not to say it. Even if I could say it, I wouldn't tell you. You. Chu Xinyan's eyes widened. Then, he smiled coldly. Good. Very good. Looks like your wings have hardened. Resisting me like this, you're probably already prepared for what will happen to you and your mother. Chu Tianyu's face paled. His eyes were filled with pain. Mother, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I can't protect you anymore. But rather than living like this, it's better to die. Chu Xinyan ignored Chu Tianyu. He looked at Elder Song, who was trembling. He won't say Yi Liangqin's identity. You won't say it either, right? No, no. How would I dare to hide it from Marquis? Elder Song stammered. Before the mysterious heaven bead was formed, Yi Liangqin made us all swear an oath not to reveal any information about him. But, he didn't know that a mere gold core cultivator's oath with us leaving aperture cultivators, can't really bind us. As he spoke, he looked at Chu Xinyan. Marquis, you don't need to be angry at the Crown Prince. As long as you know Yi Liangqin's identity, you won't have to worry about not getting the mysterious heaven bead. Chu Xinyan's eyes sharpened. Speak. Who is Yi Liangqin? Yi Liangqin is. Elder Song's face froze as soon as he said that. Then, the flattery on his face turned into fear and shock. No, no, no. Don't. Marquis, save me, save. Before he could finish his sentence, a loud bang came from his body. Then, blood and flesh splattered everywhere, and broken bones scattered all over the ground. It was Elder Song's body that exploded. Faintly, an old voice reverberated in the void. Those who violate the 6 stars order shall be executed. The room was deathly silent. The veins on Chu Xinyan's forehead throbbed violently. Ha ha ha. Suddenly, Chu Tianyu burst into unbridled laughter. This laughter caused Chu Xinyan's anger to boil. In the next moment, he had already appeared in front of Chu Tianyu and fiercely stomped his head into the ground. The pain of his skull shattering made Chu Tianyu wail in pain. Tears mixed with blood flowed from his eyes, ears, mouth, and nose. However, there was still a twisted smile on his face. When the 6 stars order is issued, no spirit cultivator can defy it. Even if you kill me, even if you shatter my primordial spirit and search my soul, you still won't get anything. Father, you will never know who Yi Liangqin is, and you will never be able to obtain the mysterious heaven pearl. Chu Xinyan took a deep breath, and the monstrous anger on his face slowly receded. He withdrew the foot that was stepping on Chu Tianyu's face. He took out a handkerchief and slowly wiped off the blood that splashed on his body before saying faintly. Chapter 2096. It seems that you've really grown up. I can't help but admire your courage and insight today. I like you even more now. Chu Xinyan takes out a new pair of black gloves and puts them on his old bark-like wrinkled hands. He leans down and grabs Chu Tianyu's chin, forcing him to raise his head. You should be very clear, what will happen to a child who is loved by father? Oh, that's right, there's also your mother. She has sat in the position of the Marquis for too long. Where to send her next, father needs to think about it. Chu Tianyo's body suddenly trembles and he suddenly yells, Chu Xinyan, you're not a human. What do you want to do to my mother? Chu Xinyan, she has loved you for so many years, how can you treat her like this? Chu Xinyan has a smile on his face, seemingly very satisfied with his current performance. After a long time, he narrows his eyes and says, if you want me to let your mother go, it depends on your performance. Don't say that father didn't give you a chance. Father will give you another 7 days. Within 7 days, if you can tell Father Yi Liangchen's identity, your mother will still have a way to live. Otherwise, Father seems to remember that Lu Yu has been interested in your mother's beauty for a long time. Why don't Father send your mother over? Chu Tianyo's pupils suddenly shrink and his body trembles like a sieve. At the same time, he feels an indescribable nausea, making him unable to stop himself from vomiting. Who is Lu Yu? He is Chu Xinyan's most powerful confidant, but he is also an out-and-out devil. He takes pleasure in torturing and degrading women. Chu Tianyu has seen with his own eyes that Lu Yu peels off the skin of a young girl. Feng Yu gave Leng Yuyao to Lu Yu. The next day, Leng Yuyao ran out crying for help. However, a few days later, when Chu Tianyu saw her again, this once sinister and greedy woman has become a walking puppet. Living a life worse than death, purgatory on earth, this is the fate of those women who were given to Lu Yu. And Chu Xinyan actually wants to give his mother, the Marquis of the Dingwa Manor, to Lu Yu to abuse and play with. Chu Tianyu almost wants to vomit out all his internal organs. Tears of blood slowly flow down his cheeks. In the Tian Mo Qin space. There's no one playing the Tian Mo Qin, and it's constantly making chaotic sounds. Qi Huang nervously watches the changes in the Tian Mo Qin. Mu Yan and Xiao Bao's sighs, one big and one small, come to his ears. Sigh. Qi Huang angrily says, the Tian Mo Qin is currently absorbing the mysterious heaven bead, what are you sighing about at such an important moment? Mayan rolls her eyes at him, and says with some flagging interest, can't I miss my fiancé? Xiao Bao pursed his lips and said seriously, Xiao Bao misses daddy, can't I? 7 Brilliance felt as though he had received a 10,000 critical hits. How he wished he could stomp the two of them into the ground. Di Mingju has only appeared here as a primordial spirit avatar. He can't stay for long, plus the polar domain situation is critical. Therefore, the family of 3 did not spend much time together. Jun Shangdaren's unwilling, or perhaps it should be said that his dissatisfied figure slowly dissipates. Mu Yan and Xiao Bao anxiously waited for him to come, but in the end, they didn't even say a few words before he left. Of course, they were unhappy. That was why the scene just now happened. However, playing around is just playing around. Mayan quickly gets up and walks over to the Tian Mo Qin. Whether the Tian Mo Qin can level up, whether she can advance to the 7th rank of the Shin musician, is very important to her. Chapter 2097. Not long after, the Tian Mo Qin's automatic sound slowly fades away. The radiance of the zither also gradually faded. Mu Yan nervously stares at the Tian Mo Qin, waiting for its second stage of change. However, 1 breath passed, 2 breaths passed, 15 minutes passed. Mayan points at the Tian Mo Qin, then looks at Qi Huang, Qi Shao Huang. This time when the Tian Mo Qin was repaired, why wasn't the movement as big as last time? The last time the Tian Mo Qin was restored was in the Yanwu continent, in that Wang Ye's mansion. At that time, her moon's spiritual root was stimulated. It was said that even the cultivation continent and the cultivation continent were alarmed by the phenomenon. The Tian Mo Qin's appearance has also changed from its original worn-out appearance to its current appearance that can barely be seen. But this time, the Tian Mo Qin doesn't have the slightest change. Mayan walks over, picks up the Tian Mo chain, looks around, and gently plucks the strings. Indeed, it was exactly the same as before. She suspiciously asks, I can already break through the bottleneck of the 6th level of Shin musician. You're thinking too much. Qi Huang rolls his eyes, the Tian Mo chain hasn't completed its 2nd advancement. What? Mayan glares at him, didn't you say that the mysterious heaven bead is the material to repair the Tian Mo chain? Otherwise, she wouldn't have to risk her life to take back the profound heaven orb. It's not bad to sell it for a good price. She had to support a big family now, so she was really poor. Qi Huang sneers, this deity said that the mysterious heaven bead is the material to repair the Tian Mo chain, but didn't say that as long as the mysterious heaven bead is present, the Tian Mo chain's 2nd advancement can be completed. Mu Yen frowns. What do you mean? The Tian Mo chain's 2nd advancement is the restoration of the chain's body. The body of an ancient zither is divided into the crown and horn, the zither waist, the zither shoulders, the zither neck, the heaven and earth pillars, and so on. The mysterious heaven bead fuses with the Tian Mo chain, but it can only repair 1/3 of the zither's body. Of course, it's impossible for any changes to occur. Mayan is a little dumbfounded. Then how many things do I need to repair the Tian Mo chain? Where are the remaining materials? I don't know, 7 Brilliance said very irresponsibly. You don't know. Mayan squints at him, Qi Xiao Huang, are you really the spirit of the Tian Mo chain? Don't tell me it's some wild monster in disguise. He was clearly an artifact spirit, but he knew nothing about his true self. Was there such an idiotic artifact spirit in this world? Qi Huang flies into a thunderous rage. The Tian Mo chain's restoration materials are all dropped from the chain's body. How would Ben Zun know what they become after they drop? Moreover, the materials dropped by the Tian Mo chain are all rare treasures in the world. In order to prevent others from coveting them, they will automatically restrain their aura. This deity can't leave the space, so it's only natural that I can't sense it. Jun Mayan, this bastard, actually dared to doubt him. Bastard, bastard. How infuriating. Mu Yan turned a blind eye to Qi Xiao Huang's outburst, but frowned with a headache. He had only repaired 1/3 of it, but he didn't even know what the remaining materials were or where they were. The cultivation continent was so big, where was he going to start looking? Mother. Just as she was feeling vexed, Xiaobao's voice suddenly sounded in her ears. Mother, look at this map. Mu Yan turns around and sees Xiaobao holding a map in his hand. Mu Yan was still very familiar with this map. It was left behind by Bailey Yinlu at that time for her to search for materials to repair the Tian Mo chain. When she was in the Yanwu continent, she had indeed completed the 1st advancement of the Tian Mo chain through the coordinates on the map. Chapter 2098. However, after coming to the Yanwu continent, Mayan also checked the map, but she discovered that there were no coordinates at all, nor was there any response. However, the map that little Bao brought over was slightly different. They see that the map that was originally completely in line with the Yanwu continent has now completely changed. Is this a map of the cultivation world? Mayan is startled, and quickly moves closer to take a look. Hey, Qi Huang, come look, there's a circle on this map. Qi Huang was still throwing a tantrum, grunting and ignoring her. Mu Yan directly grabs his collar and pulls the brat over. Before Qi Huang explodes in anger, she strokes his head, be good, don't make trouble. Quickly help me see if the remaining restoration materials for the Tian Mo chain are here. The blue veins on Qi Huang's forehead throbbed. He wanted to curse out loud, I'm a dignified ancient artifact spirit, is my head something you can casually touch? At the same time, he felt that this feeling was very novel. He had experienced the river of time for such a long time, and he had seen all kinds of people in the world, but there had never been anyone like June Mayan who treated him without any ill feelings, without reverence or alienation. Chi Huang snorts awkwardly, looking at the map in Mayan's hands. After a long while, he says, "The remaining materials for the Tian Mo Qin are in this circle." According to Chi Huang, the people of the spirit music sect have been persecuted and hunted by the entire Xuxian continent. The fluctuation of the Tian Mo Qin's breath has already been captured by some of the Xuxian continent's refining sects. If he carries the complete Tian Mo Qin, even if he escapes to the Yanwu continent, he would still be discovered very quickly. As a result, Bailey Yinlu and the others had no choice but to strip out a portion of the Tian Mo Qin's materials that would expose their aura and throw them in various places in the three realms. The material that can expose its aura is naturally the most powerful and precious part of the Tian Mo Qin. As a result, without these materials, the Tian Mo Qin is weakened by more than 90%. And if a Shin musician wants to display their full strength, the Tian Mo Qin is indispensable. The map that Bailey Yinlu had left behind was embedded with complicated glyphs. As long as there is spiritual energy, it can automatically sense the location of the Tian Mo Qin's materials. In the beginning, there was no reaction because the materials on the cultivation continent were too scattered and their auras were too weak. Now that the mysterious heaven orb had returned to its original body, the map finally sensed the location of the remaining materials. However, Mayan frowns and says gloomily, "If Bailey Yinlu wants to give us the coordinates, then just give us the coordinates. What's the meaning of drawing a circle?" A small circle on the map was hundreds of kilometers wide. Furthermore, this circle covered the Woodfern Sea and the Pilyang mountain range, as well as the azure blue world and the purple cloud world. If she wanted to find a small material in such a large area, it would be like looking for a needle in a haystack. Chi Huang also disdainfully said, "The people from godly musicians are really a bunch of trash. They're being chased like stray dogs. They can't even accurately locate the repair materials." Mu Yan glanced at him with a smile that was not a smile. "Chi Shao Huang, your tone is really big. At least Bailey Yinlu gave me a ring. What about you? Not even a circle. Bastard." Seven Brilliance stomped his foot in anger. "If I could leave the space, I would have already found these materials." Mu Yan fiddled with the strings and put away the map. No matter what, at least he had a rough idea. There is a reaction between the Tian Mo Qin and the restoration materials. When the time comes, she will take the Tian Mo Qin and circle around these places 8 or 10 times. She doesn't believe that she won't be able to find it. As for the space that Chi Huang mentioned, Mu Yan shakes her head. Chapter 2099. Not to mention that Su Zi, the only one who can bear the Seven Brilliant Soul, is now in seclusion. Even if there is Su Zi, there is no way to let the Seven Brilliant Soul possess her for a long time. Just then, something on Mu Yan's body suddenly lights up. Jade Key. Mu Yan's eyes light up all at once. That damned so-called upgrade is finally over. She can enter Tianguang Ruins. Welcome back to Tianguang Ruins, first host. Mu Yan finds that when her divine sense enters Tianguang Ruins this time, what she sees when she opens her eyes is not the reincarnation square. Instead, it's the endless chaos she saw when she first entered Tianguang Ruins. The familiar mechanical voice echoes in her ears. She doesn't know why, but this time, Mu Yan feels that this voice seems to have a trace of human emotion. Mu Yan calms down, and the scenery in front of her slowly becomes clear. In the bottom of her eyes, the appearance of a teenager is reflected. The teenager looks about 11 or 12 years old, and is dressed in a very strange costume. The upper body is a thin white shirt, and the outside is covered with a black vest. The lower body is a pair of black pants. What's even more strange is the teenager's hair, which is so short that it reveals his pointed ears. A pair of silver eyes flickered as it looked at her. It was indescribably adorable. Mu Yan has never seen this kind of attire in the martial arts stage or the Shushan continent, but there is an inexplicable sense of familiarity. She hesitates, little Tian. The teenager immediately smiles and throws himself into Mu Yan's arms, hugging and rubbing against her. First host, little Tian misses you so much. Mu Yan is at a loss. Little Tian, why do you always call me first host? Did you recognize the wrong person? The teenager raises his head and sticks out his tongue at her. I won't recognize the wrong person. The first host's aura is exactly the same as before, and his embrace is also soft and warm. Little Tian likes it the most. It's a pity that little Guang and little Su are still asleep and can't see the first host. Hee, they must be envious of me. Mu Yan looks at the teenager's bright silver eyes. Little Tian, what is the first host? Little Tian blinks. I can't say it because of the rules. First host, you will know later. Mu Yan still wants to say something, but little Tian has already said, oh, Master is calling little Tian is leaving. First host, welcome back to Tianguang Ruins. After saying that, without waiting for Mu Yan to ask any more questions, the youth's figure had already completely disappeared. Master. Who was the owner? Furthermore, he hadn't even asked him about the Medicine King's inheritance. Mayan is both annoyed and amused at the same time. Her divine sense moves and she appears on the reincarnation square. Young martial uncle is also in the Tianguang ruins. Mu Yan muttered and sent a message to Luo Yunxiao. Luo Yunxiao still didn't respond. She didn't take it to heart and strolled toward Lousy World's #1 shop. While walking, Mu Yan takes out a glittering golden token. A large, medicine, character was carved in the center of the token. That was right, this was the Medicine King token. But it was just a token. Mu Yan tries to use her divine sense and spiritual power to activate it, but the Medicine King token doesn't respond at all. She suddenly remembered what little Tian had said when he was announcing the rules. In the end, the one who obtains the Medicine King token and activates it will be the true successor of the Medicine King. So, getting the Medicine King token wasn't enough, and he still had to activate it. How could he activate it? Those glass beads suddenly flash before her eyes, and Mu Yan's eyes brighten. Chapter 2100. Xiaobao had obtained the 4-colored glass beads after he triggered the Medicine King's inheritance and passed the 3 tests with her. And on the Medicine King token, there were exactly 4 grooves. Mu Yan is about to take out the glass bead when she suddenly hears a familiar angry voice. I repeat, we are not going back to the upper 3 districts. Even if I have to go back to the upper 3rd district, I will never go back to your city. Just give up. It was Easy Bro's voice. Mu Yan looked up and saw that many people were surrounding the old man is #1 in the world shop. At the very front were more than 10 Tianguang city enforcers who were dressed in black uniforms with gold on them. The leader of the group was a man in a loose robe. He was an old acquaintance. He was the Jiang city supervisor of the north city of the upper 3 districts of Tianguang ruins. He was the one who had chased the old master's #1 under the Heaven store out of the Tianguang ruins. Hearing the angry roar of the carefree brother, the manager of Rivertown was unperturbed. There was not a trace of guilt or annoyance on his face. There was only arrogance, as if he was giving alms. I advise you to calm down and think carefully before you speak. In the upper, middle, and lower districts of Tianguang ruins, the authority of the district administrators and urban management will decrease with each level. To put it bluntly, the district administrators of the 3 middle districts and the 3 lower districts are under the jurisdiction of the 3 upper districts. Jiang City's governor chuckled, "The upper 3 districts' governor is my uncle. As long as I say the word, not to mention the upper 3 districts, you won't even be able to survive in the middle 3 districts and the lower 3 districts." Elegant Bro and North Sunflower Xiang Nuan's faces were ashen. The surrounding Liang Chen's army was also filled with righteous indignation, unable to restrain their anger. "You were the one who drove God Yi out of the upper 3 zones, and now you want us to go back with a wave of your hand. What do you take us for? Isn't it just because Almighty Ye's pills and talismans are selling well, and he has become the king of medicine's direct disciple, so he wants a piece of the pie? Although Great God Yi hasn't appeared recently, he has left a lot of talismans for sale." Now, most of the cultivators had gone to the middle and lower districts, while only a few people went to the upper districts, which used to be the most lively. That's why this son of a bitch got anxious. Just as the man had said. After receiving the benefits from the Flowing Moon School, the supervisor of Jiang City also thought that Yi Liangqin would never be able to rise again. Therefore, he expelled the Laozi is the best in the world from the upper 3 zones. Unexpectedly, Yi Liangqin, who was being suppressed by the Flowing Moon sect, actually counterattacked. He was able to draw something as heaven-defying as the water element pill refining talisman. All of a sudden, the cultivators who had been swarming in the Flowing Moon Pill Palace all ran to the old man's number 1 under the world store in the middle and lower 3 districts. As for the Flowing Moon Pill Palace, it was completely deserted overnight. Even the Flow Moon sect had become a thing of the past and had completely fallen to a 3rd or 4th-rate sect. If that was all, the Jiang City governor would not be so anxious. After all, there were only a few cultivators who wanted to buy talismans. The upper 3 districts were the highest level places in Tianguang ruins, so the human traffic and transactions were the highest. However, right after that, Yap Liangqin passed the almost impossible test and became the only inheritor of the King of Medicine. This time, the entire Tianguang ruins really exploded. The successor of the Medicine King. That means that in the future, my number 1 shop in the world will not only sell talismans. There will also be elixirs. And Yi Liangqin was an omnipotent demon. He could become the master of Clear Sky Sect, slaughter the Dragon Ascension 6 rolls, and draw the barrier-breaking talisman that had never been seen before. How could the elixirs he refined be ordinary? Therefore, 1/3 of the cultivators in the upper 3 districts who had already run away ran away again. Chapter 2101. This time, the Jiang City manager could not sit still. The decrease in the flow of people and transactions in the upper 3 districts meant a decrease in his income and the prestige of his uncle. How could the Jiang City manager accept this? However, even if he regretted it, the Jiang City manager's attitude was still condescending. He felt that it was already a great honor for him to invite Ye Liangqin and Laozi back to the world's number 1 shop. If these people still dared to complain, they would be ungrateful. Jiang Chuanrong took the wine cup from his subordinate, swirled it gently, and tasted it with a look of enjoyment. This wine was called White Autumn Dew, and it was a spiritual wine unique to Tianguang ruins. This spiritual wine could be used directly on one's soul, giving one an incomparably wonderful taste. It was a delicacy that many cultivators yearned to taste. Of course, the price of White Autumn Dew was also extremely high. It was just a spiritual pleasure, but one had to pay the price of 100 superior-grade crystals. Ordinary people could not afford it, nor could they bear to taste it. However, Jiang Chuanrong was different. As a city enforcement officer in the upper 3 districts of Tianguang ruins, he had a fixed income of crystals every month. Even the amount of crystal stones that those cultivators and big sects secretly offered to him as bribes was already an astronomical figure. How would these ants in the middle 3 districts and lower 3 districts understand the power of a district manager and city enforcement officer in Tianguang ruins? Just like these lowly scums, they would never understand how luxurious and wonderful it was to casually taste white autumn dew. Jiang Chuanrong sighed in his heart, then looked at Elegant Bro with a smile. I admit that I was impulsive when I chased you out of the upper 3 districts. But now, I have come to invite you personally. Isn't that enough? I advise you to accept it obediently. Otherwise, if things get ugly, you might not even be able to open your shop. Don't blame me for not reminding you. Bei Kuei Xiang Wan and Elegant Bro trembled with anger. The hot-tempered old ma and Sister Hua wanted to rush up and slap this shameless fellow. However, before they could move, they were held back tightly by someone. Are you crazy? The law enforcement officers of Tianguang Ruins are supreme beings. You can offend anyone but them. Otherwise, you will die miserably. There was an iron rule in the Tianguang Ruins, and that was no real fighting. In particular, they were not allowed to use spiritual power to fight. Otherwise, they would immediately suffer the punishment of being electrocuted. However, the police were different. They were given special rights to use force in the Tianguang Ruins in order to maintain order and manage the users. Therefore, in Tianguang Ruins, no matter how powerful a cultivator was, they could offend anyone but the law enforcers. Jiang Chuanrong heard the discussions around her and snorted softly. He had long since gotten used to the feeling of being high and mighty, of being able to control the life and death of others. Clearing her throat, Jiang Chuanrong continued, "Where is Yap Liangqin? Let her come out and pay her respects to me. I have a piece of great news to tell her." Everyone present was Liang Chen's army. It didn't matter if he was insulted, but Jiang Chuanrong asked Ye Liangqin to greet him with such a disrespectful attitude. Everyone was about to explode. Who do you think you are? How dare you ask Goddess Yi to worship you? Old Ma roared in anger. The scar on his face twitched uncontrollably. He was about to fight Jiang Chuanrong. But before he could finish, he heard a clear and melodious female voice from the crowd. Chapter 2102. Manager Jiang, what good news do you have for me? Why don't you tell me now? There was a moment of silence inside and outside the shop. Everyone's eyes turned to the person who spoke. Following that, a thunderous roar erupted. Guru Yi is here. My God, it's been so many days and there's still no news of Guru Yi. I thought she was seriously injured in the nourishment stage. Guru Yi is fine, that's great. Bei Kuei Xiang Wan rushed over joyfully. Her eyes were a little red, and she grabbed her sleeve and refused to let go. Miss, you're fine. It's great that you're back. Mu Yan reached out and touched her head, then smiled gently at Liangqin Dajuan. Don't worry, how could anything happen to me? I've made you all worry. Bei Kuei Xiang Wan nodded heavily. Miss is the invincible Guru Yi. How could a mere medicine king's assessment hurt you? Everyone around Laozi's #1 shop was surrounding the girl with a delicate and pretty face. All the light between heaven and earth seemed to converge at that point. Everything else paled in comparison. Even the enforcers under Jiang Chuanrong were looking at Mu Yan with fervent and adoration. That was the Lord of 6 Stars, the Medicine King's successor, Yi Liangqin. In the Shuzhen continent where the weak were prey to the strong, who didn't worship the strong? Who didn't worship the strong? Jiang Chuanrong's hand that was holding the wine glass tightened, and there was a hint of displeasure in her eyes. It was the first time in Tianguang Ruins that he was ignored like this. Jiang Chuanrong snorted coldly, then raised his voice. Yi Liangqin, since you've come out, then follow me back to the upper 3 zones and talk about the cooperation. Mu Yan's gaze shifted from Liangqin Dajuan, who was concerned about her, to the hawk-eyed, long-bearded man in front of her. She couldn't help but sneer inwardly. The cultivators of Tianguang ruins could adjust their appearance. Jiang Chuanrong's current appearance wasn't that of a handsome guy, but he still had a sage-like demeanor and handsome features. Unfortunately, he was a headstrong and greedy idiot deep down in his bones. Although he was thinking of this, he did not show it on his face. I wonder how Jiang City's governor would like to cooperate. Jiang Chuanrong has a card up his sleeve. The aloof Mu Yen strokes his long beard and leisurely says, Laozi is the world's #1 shop. You can still open it in the upper 3 districts. Moreover, I can also move the location of your shop to the most prosperous area in the North City. Mayan has a smile that isn't a smile. What are the conditions? Jiang Chuanrong smiled slightly. Miss Yi is really an understanding person. As everyone knew, the reason why Laozi's #1 shop was kicked out of the upper 3 zones was because of its fake popularity points and the poor quality of the talismans it sold. This was also a stain that was neither too big nor too small. If I let you go back for no reason, it will have a negative impact on the reputation of my upper 3rd district. So, what I mean is, if the #1 shop in the world moves to the Concentrating Mind Pavilion, the biggest shop in the north of the upper 3 districts, you can still sell your magic charms and elixirs, but you have to pay 50% of the income to the Concentrating Mind Pavilion as their guarantee fee. What do you think? As soon as he said this, everyone was dumbfounded. All of them were shocked by Jiang Chuanrong's shamelessness. At that time, he obviously received benefits from the Flowing Moon sect, slandered Laozi's #1 shop in the world, and even drove Yi Liangqin out of the upper 3 districts. Now, he actually wants to make the slander true. Chapter 2103. Not only that, but he also wants a share of the profits. He is shameless enough to ask the world's #1 shop to merge with Ningxin Pavilion and pay half of the income. Why doesn't he just rob? Who doesn't know that Ningxin Pavilion is owned by Jiang Chuanrong's relative? Most of the income of Ningxin Pavilion goes into Jiang Chuanrong's pocket every year. Now he wants to merge the world's #1 shop into Ningxin Pavilion. His intentions are clear. Bei Kuei, Xiang Wan, and Elegant Brother are shaking with anger. Mu Yen, however, laughed softly. She stops them and chuckles, what if I don't agree? Jiang Chuanrong's face darkens. Yi Liangqin, do you know what you are talking about? The upper 3 districts of Tianguang ruins are the noblest and most authoritative places. I am the city manager of the upper 3 districts, and my uncle is the district manager of the upper 3 districts. Strictly speaking, the middle 3 districts are under my uncle's jurisdiction. So, even the district manager of the middle 3 districts will not protect you. Then, Jiang Chuanrong seems to think of something and sneers. The district manager of the lower 3 districts is really bold. He dares to stop me from entering. He said that since you are opening a shop there, he is in charge and I have no right to interfere. What a joke. I think he is going to lose his position as the district manager of the lower 3 districts. Jiang Chuanrong's eyes were burning with excitement. She said loudly, if you go against me here, it's equivalent to going against the rules of the entire Tianguang ruins. Yi Liangqin, think about it carefully. Don't lose your shop in the end. Screw your resisting me is equivalent to resisting the rules of the entire Tianguang ruins. Mu Yan rolls her eyes inwardly. Does little Tian know that this guy is so arrogant? In fact, when he was driven out of the upper 3 districts, little Tian said that he must suggest to the master to remove Jiang Chuanrong. But he just happened to be in time for the Medicine King's assessment, so he forgot about it. Mu Yan really thinks that if she doesn't go and settle accounts with Jiang Chuanrong. Instead, he wants a foot after taking an inch and bullies her. Mu Yan calls out to little Tian in her mind, but there is no response. It seems that he is still being summoned by the master. However, she is really curious about who is little Tian's current master. While he was thinking, he heard Jiang Chuanrong's impatient voice again. Yap Liang Qin, have you thought it through? Will you follow me back to the upper 3 districts and join the concentrating heart pavilion, or will you not be able to survive in Tianguang ruins from now on? Liang Chen's army was about to go crazy from anger. Some of them couldn't help but clench their fists and punch Jiang Chuanrong fiercely. However, they did not dare to use their spiritual power, so they were quickly sent flying by the law enforcers beside Jiang Chuanrong. They lay on the ground and could not get up. Jiang Chuanrong smiles at Mayan, revealing a proud expression. Lord of 6 stars. Successor of the Medicine King. There were no more kings under Yi Liangqin. Ha! So what? No matter how powerful he was still in the real world. In the Tianguang ruins, Jiang Chuanrong was the true king. Anyone who dared to resist him would die. Mu Yan's face darkens. He dared to attack Liang Chen's army right in front of her. Are you tired of living? Mu Yan's jade-like, lustrous hands gently pinched together, the joints emitting cracking sounds. Jiang City's administrator, right? The corner of the girl's mouth slowly raises, revealing a disdainful and dangerous smile. Didn't anyone teach you that you will end up miserably if you behave atrociously in someone else's territory? Chapter 2104. Jiang Chuanrong was stunned. She didn't know what he was talking about. The next moment, he felt a sharp pain on his face. At the same time, his entire divine soul shook violently, and he felt a burning pain. Jiang Chuanrong's whole body was sent flying, and she let out a miserable howl like a pig being slaughtered in the air. When he landed on the ground, he raised his head and revealed his face, causing many people to laugh. Jiang Chuanrong's chiseled face had actually sunk in. The bridge of his nose was smashed into pieces, and a few of his teeth were missing. His original sage-like demeanor and imposing manner had now become a joke. However, the external injuries in the Tianguang ruins would heal very quickly. Jiang Chuanrong's face quickly returned to normal. However, he was still howling in pain. This was because Mu Yan's punch had used spiritual energy, and it had directly struck his divine soul. The pain in his divine soul was 100 times more intense than the pain in his body. Someone like Jiang Chuanrong, who had always lived like a prince, had never tasted it before. Snot and tears flowed down his face as he struggled to get up. At the same time, he let out a shrill roar, "You dare to hit me, you bitch, you dare to hit," bang. Jiang Chuanrong, who had yet to get up, was suddenly knocked to the ground by a figure that swept over like a whirlwind. A large foot stepped on his head, and with a thud, his face, which had just recovered, was stomped back into the ground. The weight of a tall and sturdy man pressed down on his face, causing his nose bone to make a cracking sound again. It was broken. June. Yi Liangqin, give me the crystal. The tall and sturdy man, Qi Shaohuang, rushed in front of Mu Yan and said anxiously, "Hurry, I need it urgently." Mu Yan looks at the fierce-looking man in front of her with a headache. "What the hell are you doing now?" "Don't worry about it. Anyway, I'm in urgent need of spar. Give it to me quickly. Otherwise, it will be too late." Mu Yan sighed. How much? His brat had been spoiled rotten. What else could he do? She could only spoil him. 10,000 top-grade crystals. Mu Yan's face changed greatly. 10,000 high-grade crystal stones. Qi Shaohuang, why don't you go rob someone? No. Qi Huang was so anxious that the beard on his face trembled. This sovereign. I really need it urgently, just give it to me. The corner of Mu Yan's mouth twitches. Was Qi Huang flirting with her? Although it was a rare sight for the artifact spirit to admit defeat. But the problem is, you're not a handsome young man now, nor a cute and adorable Tuan Zi, but a burly man. This coquettish tone and manner gave her goosebumps all over her body. Okay. Mu Yan has no choice but to transfer 10,000 crystals to the 7 Brilliance Jade Keys space. Bitch. Bastard. How dare you hit me? I'll kill you. Jiang Chuanrong, who finally got up, was about to go mad with anger. Taking out a sword from the Jade Key space, he ruthlessly thrusts it towards Mu Yan and Qi Huang. The Tianguang ruins, which usually had no spirit energy fluctuations, was now filled with surging spirit energy and overflowing killing intent. Although Jiang Chuanrong looked like an idiot, the Jiang family had been sitting in the position of the upper 3 districts for so many years. Even though Jiang Chuanrong was an idiot, she still managed to reach the leaving aperture realm thanks to the miraculous pill she received. If a leaving aperture realm cultivator were to use his spiritual energy to stab out, the might of the sword would definitely be incomparably shocking. Be careful, God Yi. The onlookers cried out in surprise. They wanted nothing more than to rush over and block that sword for their guru Yi. Chapter 2105. But the furious Jiang Chuanrong moves too fast. No one can react in time. Mu Yan's face also changes, and she's about to open her mouth to warn Qi Huang. But she sees Qi Huang turn his head and wave his large palm leaf-like palm. Bang! Jiang Chuanrong is sent flying along with his sword. Once again, he's slapped to the ground like a pancake. This time, he didn't even have the chance to scream. An ant dares to use a sword against this sage. Qi Huang snorts coldly. Without saying anything to Mu Yan, he runs away and disappears. Why? Why didn't the divine punishment befall on these two? Jiang Chuanrong shakily climbs up again. His face is as pale as paper, and his expression is close to insanity. Divine Soul Shock. Quickly send down the Divine Soul Shock. Hysterical roars resound all around, but everything is still quiet. What lightning strike, what punishment, there's no response at all. Mu Yan crosses her arms over her chest, calm and unruffled as she watches Jiang Chuanrong go crazy. The surrounding Liang Chen's army and passers-by are also dumbfounded. What's going on? Mu Yan and that burly man attacked Jiang Chuanrong just now. They clearly used spiritual power, and even injured Jiang Chuanrong's divine soul. But why didn't the divine soul shock fall? Many people remember the last time. Mu Yan also hit the steward of the Flowing Moon Pill House, but nothing happened. Moreover, they also heard the voice of the tool spirit of Tianguang Ruins, calling Mu Yan a special user. So, Great God Yi was also powerful and influential in Tianguang Ruins. Not a small fry that can be suppressed by any Tom, Dick, or Harry. Liang Chen's army gets excited one by one, and they look at Mu Yan with more and more worship. Jiang Chuanrong's throat is hoarse from shouting, but he only gets loud ridicule from the people around him, and looks at him like he's a clown. He closes his mouth, firmly clenches his molar teeth, and looks at Mu Yan with resentment. Yi Liangqin, do you think that if Tianguang Ruins doesn't send down the divine punishment, I can't do anything to you? Jiang Chuanrong screams, even if you can use spiritual power in Tianguang Ruins, so what? You're just a little gold core stage cultivator. Be it in Tianguang Ruins or the real world, in my eyes, you are just like an ant that I can casually trample to death. Ha ha ha. Jiang Chuanrong's words caused the expressions of many people in Liang Chen's army to change. Most of the enforcers in the upper 3 districts of Tianguang Ruins were above the nascent soul realm. Most of them were leaving aperture realm cultivators. No matter how talented Yap Liangchen was, he was still very young. He was only at the golden core stage. If they really fought each other, how could they be a match for this group of scum? Do it. All of you, attack. Jiang Chuanrong waved her hand fiercely at her subordinates. Beat this bitch until her soul scatters and she will never be able to reincarnate. The black-robed law enforcers looked at each other. They were a little hesitant, but they still took out their special weapons in the end. A golden chain. Injecting spiritual energy could turn it into a sword that could cut through iron as if it were mud. Circulating spiritual energy could turn it into a shackle. Jiang Chuanrong, on the other hand, was holding a halberd in his hand. At this moment, he was filled with hatred to the point of insanity. He completely disregarded the fluctuations that might be caused by the surging spiritual energy in the Tianguang ruins as he attacked Mu Yen with bloodshot eyes. Great God Yi, watch out. Almighty Yi, get out of the way. I'll block him for you. One by one, Liang Chen's army shouted and rushed over, wanting to block in front of Mu Yen. Their cultivation was higher than Mu Yan's. At this moment, they couldn't care less about the fact that they were in Tianguang ruins. They only thought that the person they followed and supported must not be harmed. Chapter 2106. When Jiang Chuanrong gave the order to attack just now, Mayan's expression didn't change. However, at this moment, he was astonished. All of you, get out of the way. You are not allowed to use your spiritual power. It wasn't that the rules of Tianguang ruins had lost their effect. It was probably because little Tian was biased that it didn't work on her. However, once Liang Chen's army made a move, the consequences would be unimaginable. Mu Yan has never been so flustered before. Her body shot out like an arrow from a bow, quickly grabbing a few people and throwing them backwards. However, there were just too many of Liang Chen's soldiers rushing over to protect her. She couldn't stop them at all. In the air of the Middle Three region, a huge amount of spiritual power was surging crazily. The Liang Chen army had already conjured weapons in their hands, and they slashed towards Jiang Chuanrong and the others. In the sky, above the surging spiritual power, black clouds slowly condensed. Mayan's pupils violently contract. She's shocked and regretful, but she's powerless. In the next moment, there was a loud bang. Cries of pain and moans came from the surroundings. Mayan's hands are tightly clenched into fists, almost not daring to look at the miserable state of Liang Chen's army. Ha! Someone exclaimed, I'm fine. The lightning didn't strike me. How did the law enforcement officers get killed? Yeah. I'm sure I used my spiritual power just now. When the thunder fell, I thought I was done for. Mayan abruptly comes back to her senses. Looking at the scene around her, she is also at a loss. Liang Chen's army was puzzled. They looked at each other and pinched each other. Then, they started laughing as if they had just survived a disaster. At their feet were Jiang Chuanrong and the enforcers. All of them were foaming at the mouth and convulsing. They looked extremely miserable. What was going on? The divine soul lightning strike landed on Jiang Chuanrong and the enforcer. Liang Chen's army is fine. Could it be that little Tian was helping her? But didn't little Tian say that it could only help within the loopholes of the rules? Mayan is puzzled when she suddenly discovers that the originally noisy surroundings have suddenly quietened down. Everyone's eyes were fixed in one direction, as if they had seen a ghost. Before Mu Yan could react, she hears a familiar magnetic voice. Mu Yan, are you hurt? Mu Yan turns her head to look, only to see a man dressed in green slowly walking over. Her eyebrows were like a painting, clear like water, with a rosy appearance like the moon, and unparalleled elegance. It was as if the most beautiful words in the world were too vulgar when used on this person. Gasps and groans could be heard all around. Their knees went soft and they almost collapsed. There were also cries of anguish that came from their souls. Mu Yan, however, smiled, "Junior Martial Uncle." Luo Yunxiao walked up to her and looked her up and down. "Are you all right?" Mu Yan shook her head, then looked at him suspiciously and said in a low voice, "Was it you who helped me just now, Junior Martial Uncle?" Luo Yunxiao did not reply to her. Instead, she looked at Jiang Chuanrong and the others on the ground. A cold smile slowly appeared on her gentle jade-like face. The next moment, little Tian's mechanical voice rang out in the Tianguang ruins. "Jiang Zhenhai, Jiang Chuanrong, enforcers Ding Mao, Zhang Guang, and Li Si. They abused their power, deceived their superiors, and illegally amassed wealth. Everything they did went against the rules of the enforcers of Tianguang ruins. I hereby announce the corresponding punishment for this group of people. Jiang Zhenhai, is fined 1 million high-grade crystals, removed from his position as a district administrator, and demoted to the lowest level user. Jiang Chuanrong, is removed from her position as an enforcer. She will be punished with a first-level divine soul lightning strike, and will be banished from Tianguang ruins forever, and is not allowed to enter again." Chapter 2107. Enforcers Ding Mao, Zhang Guang, Li Si, help the evildoer. Their positions as enforcers will be revoked and 10,000 popularity points will be deducted. If they commit the same offense again, they will be permanently banished from Tianguang ruins. As little Tian announced the punishments one by one, those who had just recovered from the divine soul electric shock turned pale again. It was fine to remove their positions as enforcers, but to deduct 10,000 popularity points, many of them would have negative popularity points. From then on, it would be difficult for them to do anything in Tianguang ruins. From a high and mighty high official to a lowly person who did not even have a jade key space, how could they accept such a drop? Jiang Chuanrong was even more dumbfounded. Then, when he came back to his senses, he immediately let out a hysterical roar. "Why? My Jiang family has always been the enforcer of the upper third district. Why did you remove me, why?" Before he could finish his words, a slap sent him flying. "You bastard! Evil creature!" Jiang Zhenhai, who had come to the middle third district, rushed over madly and kicked Jiang Chuanrong. "Son of a bitch, our Jiang family is in deep trouble because of you." Jiang Zhenhai was the real disaster that fell from the sky. He did not know what had happened at all, but he was suddenly informed that his district manager position had been revoked and he had even become the lowest user. For a moment, it was like a bolt from the blue, and he was dumbfounded. When he found out that everything was caused by his nephew, Jiang Chuanrong, he immediately hated him to the core. "Get ready for level 1 divine soul electric shock." Little Tian's cold voice came from the sky. This time, Jiang Chuanrong was really panicking. He desperately wanted to leave Tianguang ruins, but found that he could not. Uncle, save me. I don't want to take the divine soul electric shock." Jiang Chuanrong's face was full of snot and tears as he cried for help. He was an enforcer and knew better than anyone what level 1 divine soul electric shock meant. Ordinary divine soul electric shock would only damage the spirit or weaken the cultivation. However, a level 1 divine soul electric shock could take a person's life. Even if he did not die from the shock, he would become an idiot. Jiang Chuanrong was an out-of-body stage cultivator. How could he become an idiot? "Uncle, save me. I know I'm wrong. I won't mess with Yap Liangchen anymore. Forgive me. Forgive me." Ah! As an earth-shattering bolt of lightning fell, everyone present shuddered in unison. It was because of Jiang Chuanrong's blood-curdling screams, and also because of the fact that his entire body, flesh, bones, and soul had been distorted after being electrocuted. Was this Tianguang ruins first-level divine spirit electric shock punishment? Even a cultivator at the crossing calamity stage wouldn't be able to endure such a horrible punishment, right? Such an outcome shocked everyone and made them realize that Yap Liangchen was special in the Tianguang ruins. Up until now, anyone who wanted to deal with Yi Liangchen in the Tianguang ruins had died. Without exception, all of them ended up in a miserable state. Little Marshal Uncle, where have you been recently? Why didn't he come to see us? That's right, our domains have all been activated. Eldest senior brother, second senior brother, fourth senior sister, and fifth senior brother have all advanced to the second stage of their domains. We practice the blood slaughter sword formation every day. In the backyard of Laozi's #1 shop, the people of the Xiaoyao sect, who had hurriedly gone online, surrounded their little martial uncle and chattered non-stop. Luo Yunxiao's expression was still calm, without any fluctuations. Chapter 2108. But if you look carefully, you can still see that the indifferent face has a faint gentleness. Junior Master, we have opened all our domains. Even Instructor Mo praised us. Aren't you going to praise us? Luo Yu giggled. As for Instructor Mo's, barely qualified, was that considered a compliment? Of course it was. Luo Yunxiao's gaze seems to sweep over Mayan. Her hands slowly clench, and without a trace, she loosens them. He picked up the peach blossom wine in front of him and took a sip. Then he said lightly, our strength has indeed improved. The 7 of them were so happy as if they had eaten honey. They were so happy that they wanted to spin in circles. Oh, Instructor Mo and Junior Master both praised them. They're so great. Just like what Bai Xie said, they must give themselves 32 likes. However, the next moment, Luo Yunxiao's words made everyone's cheeks stiffen. The blood-slaughtering sword array is not enough for your practice. He leisurely took out a jade slip and a pile of array boards and threw them in front of them, so, I have made a new practice plan for you. The 7 of them looked at each other. After a long while, they took the jade slip with trembling hands and immersed their divine sense into it. They almost fainted from the shock. The one who had the biggest reaction was Mu Yan, who had always been the most leisurely and indifferent. Junior Master, are you kidding? 360 sword energies of the blood-slaughtering sword array, and only dodging and resisting it without using spiritual power. Not to mention, there was also the spirit refinement of the raging flame array, the body forging of the ice array, the meridian refining of the extreme wood array. Every practice was as difficult as climbing up to the sky. It could peel off a layer of skin. Was this a practice that a normal person could complete? The practice of the others in the Xiaoyao sect was a little easier than Mu Yan, but it was definitely beyond the limits of the human body. Luo Yunxiao put the peach blossom wine aside and raised his hand. A guqin appeared in front of him. His slender hands gently plucked the strings. Unfortunately, what came out was not beautiful music, but a harsh noise. It's okay if you don't want to learn. Everyone was happy. Luo Yunxiao continued, then let's settle the debt you owe me. The Xiaoyao 7's face stiffened. Wahahaha, Master, let me do it. I'll settle it with them. Chiwen jumped out excitedly and shouted, before Mei Yanyan came, all the expenses of the Xiaoyao school were paid by my master. Of course, Shi Qing was the one who paid most of the expenses. But Shi Qing is your master. A master for a day is a father for a lifetime. Is there anything wrong with a son paying his father's debt? The faces of Yun Ruhan and the others sank. Especially Yun Ruhan, she knew very well how many crystals her master had spent on little Ant Master. Moreover, most of it was used by Master to buy wine, the kind of fine wine that cost dozens of high-grade crystal stones for 1 ounce. Mu Yan opens her mouth, wanting to speak. Luo Yunxiao glanced at her faintly and said, I'm here to drink with you. He, in this world, you're the first one who dares to make Master drink with another woman, Mei Yen Yen. Not to mention, Master will personally teach you sword techniques. You owe Master the most. Chi-Wen shouted excitedly, if you really don't want to cultivate, why don't you devote yourself to me? Splat. Luo Yunxiao slapped Chi-Wen to the ground, silencing her. Luo Yunxiao's gaze swept over the 7 people present. Now, do you still have any objections? No, no. The 7 people shook their heads like a rattledrum. Chapter 2109. What a joke, they were all poor people. Moreover, he was a pauper who lived for the moment. The crystals he earned during the 3 Academy tournament had already been spent. Where would he find the crystal stones to return to youngest uncle? Luo Yunxiao takes a deep look at Mayan. She only says, I'll come back to check in a month. Then she leaves the Tianguang ruins. This time, Chi-Wen was not in a hurry to leave. Instead, she bites the hem of Mayan's skirt. Mei Yen Yen, don't blame Master for being cold and strict, he's doing this for your own good. Your future will only be. Idiot, of course we understand that junior uncle is doing this for our own good. Mu Yan pinches Chi-Wen's bulbous nose, do you still need to remind us of this? Ling Yuma walked over and kicked Chi-Wen's butt. What are you waiting for? Hurry up and serve little martial uncle. Luo Yu leaned on the window and shouted, Chi-Wen, you must take good care of youngest martial uncle. Remind him to come back and visit us more often when he's free. Chi-Wen opened her eyes and looked at the indifferent young man sitting at the side as if he didn't care about anything. For some reason, she felt an inexplicable sourness in her heart. Master, those kids from the Xiaoyao sect actually care about you a lot. Luo Yunxiao gently smiled. A light smile blossomed on that incomparably handsome face. For a moment, even the surrounding lakes and mountains seemed to lose their color, leaving behind only this breathtaking beauty. However, when Chi-Wen saw that smile, she only felt endless desolation and loneliness. It was as if the world was covered by snow and ice, and the world was covered by an endless curtain of night. She could no longer see the flowers blooming in spring or the sun in the clear sky. It is precisely because of this that I should stay away from them, just a little bit more. After Luo Yunxiao and Chi-Wen left, the people of the Xiaoyao sect also left the Tianguang ruins. Only Mu Yan stayed behind. She took out the medicine master token and the 4 glass beads, and inserted the glass beads into the 4 corners of the medicine master token. In the next moment, an ancient and deep voice resounded in his ears. The Medicine King token has been activated, do you want to enter the inheritance space immediately? Mu Yan's heart flutters, and she quickly settles her mind to answer, yes. At the same time, in the Medicine King Hall of Shushin Continent, Han Chujiu was lying on the couch like a salted fish. Her cheeks were puffed up and her face was full of despair. All of a sudden, the heaven void cauldron, which was stuffed with junk, began to buzz. Han Chujiu suddenly jumped up from the couch and stared at the dazzling heavenly void cauldron. Her breathing got faster and faster. Disciple, his precious disciple had finally arrived. As soon as Mayan's yes falls to the ground, she feels a blur in front of her eyes, her head heavy and her feet light. It was as if he was grabbed by a giant hand and thrown into the endless sea, rolling along with the waves. When she finally came back to her senses, she realized that she was in a messy hole. One could say that the main hall was shabby, but every beam and pillar was richly ornamented and resplendent. You could say that it was luxurious, but there was trash and waste paper everywhere. All sorts of pill furnaces were placed around the hole. However, these seemingly expensive pill furnaces were filled with paper balls and the skins of some unknown spirit fruits. This is the King of Medicine's inheritance space. The corner of Mu Yan's mouth twitches. Isn't this a bit too much of a personality? So how was she going to obtain the inheritance of the King of Herbs? Should I clean the room first? Or was he looking for a mechanism? Cough, cough. A deliberately suppressed cough interrupts Mayan's train of thought. Chapter 21:10. She quickly turned her head and saw a gray-haired old man slowly coming out from behind the screen. The old man's figure is not tall, he is only a little taller than Mu Yen. His hair is as white as snow and is tied up with a jasper hairpin. His beard is also snow-white, hanging down to his chest. While coughing, the old man stroked his beard, which makes him look like an immortal. But when Mu Yen looks at this old man, she always feels a strange sense of incongruity. After observing for a long time, she can see that the old man's eyes are too clear, too bright, and too round. And his mouth, although most of it is covered by his white beard, she can still vaguely see his pink lips. Presumptuous. A fierce and low voice came, "Lower your head, who allowed you to look directly at this master?" This voice is mixed with a strong pressure, which made Mu Yen jump in fright. She quickly lowered her eyes and dared not to look at it again. But inside her heart, she became more and more curious. "Are you the sacred ancestor medicine king?" "Of course." Han Chujo coldly snorted. "Besides me, is there a second person in this world who can become a sacred ancestor level refiner?" After boasting, Han Chujo said, "Do you want to get this master's medicine king inheritance?" Mu Yen nodded her head without hesitation. "Then, you first refine a batch of elixirs for this master to see." Then, she casually waved her hand, and some common elixirs in the Xiuzhen continent piled up like a mountain in front of her. One of the alchemy furnaces filled with garbage also appeared in front of Mu Yen. When Han Chujo saw the garbage inside, she blushed and quickly waved her hand to clean up the garbage. "Let's refine here." Mu Yen did not hesitate and quickly chose the elixirs to refine. She is still refining the barrier-breaking Dan that she is best at. As the fire rises, the elixirs are slowly melted one by one. From time to time, Han Chujo's voice sounded in the main hall. "Ha! What is this formula? Why haven't I seen it before?" "Gee, interesting, it can actually stimulate the potential and clear the mind. If you take it, it should help people to break through the bottleneck. You're quite an interesting lass." However, when Mu Yen controlled the fire and began to fuse the melted elixirs, Han Chujo, on the other hand, flew into a rage and shouted, "What a waste of natural resources! What a waste of God's gifts! Such a good pill formula was actually refined with such a trashy method. Which idiot taught you this method of controlling fire and condensing pills? What an idiot, an idiot, an idiot!" Mu Yen awkwardly stops what she's doing. She couldn't continue. If she continued, she was afraid that this king of medicine would be so angry that he would smash her head with an alchemy furnace. Han Chuji's eyes widened and roared, "Tell me, which bastard taught you how to control the fire to refine dawn? This is killing a genius. I'm going to strangle this idiot to death." Mayan touches her nose and says awkwardly, "No one taught me, I fumbled around on my own." In the Tian Mo Qin space, the basic compendium of alchemy and the intermediate compendium of alchemy teach relevant theories, but they don't actually teach her how to control fire or how to condense pills. In fact, this thing could not be taught with words alone. Therefore, Mayan used her divine sense to feel the changes of the elixirs inch by inch according to the pill recipe and the process of alchemy, and fumbled it out herself. This time, it was Han Chujo who was shocked. Fumbled it out herself. The most difficult part of alchemy is controlling the fire and condensing the Dan. Ordinary alchemists may not be able to master these two aspects even after being taught by a famous teacher for several years. Chapter 21:11. But the little girl in front of him, without anyone's guidance, actually fumbled out a set of fire control and dawn. Even if Han Chujo criticized it as worthless, he knows that compared to many alchemy sects in the Shushan continent, this set of fire control and dawn is already very exquisite. Did you really fumble it out by yourself? Mu Yan nodded her head with difficulty, waiting for the Medicine King's scolding. However, after waiting for a long time, she found that there was no sound from the opposite side. When she looked up, she saw the Medicine King, who has a sage-like appearance, half raised his head, smiling with a sneaky face. Her big round eyes were sparkling, and her pink and tender cherry lips were smacking as if she was savoring the aftertaste of something delicious. Han Chujo was really happy at this time. He knew that the person who can trigger the Medicine King's inheritance and pass the Medicine King's assessment is not an ordinary person. However, he had never imagined that his disciple would be so talented. In the future, when he trained her, he will be able to beat Di Ming. At that time, he will let the people of the Polar Domain's imperial court kneel down and sing surrender. Mu Yan blinked her eyes, her heart was curious. What happened to the Medicine King? Up close, the Medicine King's skin is very good. Because of his excitement, his white skin is red. It looks like a red apple. Mu Yan stretched out her claws, wanting to pinch the Medicine King's face to see if it was just an illusion. Han Chujo suddenly came back to his senses. He was scared and took a few steps back. He covered his beard and said, "Bold little apprentice, what are you doing?" Mu Yan retracted her hand in embarrassment and coughed lightly. "Medicine King, my fire control and dawn." She hasn't finished her words, but Han Chujo angrily said, "What Medicine King? Call me master." "Master! Master! You are my only apprentice, the only successor of the Medicine King Hole. Do you want to deceive your master and betray your ancestors?" Mu Yan wrinkled her eyebrows in embarrassment, "But I already have a master. Although Shi Qing didn't teach her anything, he is also her master. If Shi Qing hadn't brought her into the Xiaoyao school, she wouldn't have met her fellow disciples, and she wouldn't have been taught by her junior martial uncle." Han Chujo contemptuously said, "Can those garbage alchemists in the lower realm compare with me? That kind of trash doesn't deserve to be called a master." Mu Yan opens her mouth, wanting to say that he's not a master in alchemy. Han Chujo impatiently said, Okay, then can you reluctantly call me Zhou Shifu?" Mu Yan immediately called out obediently, "Ninth Master." When Han Chujo heard her little apprentice obediently call her Zhou Shifu, her heart burst with joy. She felt so happy that bubbles burst out of her bubble. Han Chujo has a disciple. He finally had a precious disciple, ha ha ha. However, the ecstatic Medicine King coughed lightly and said, "If you want to enter my Medicine King Hall and become my successor, you still need to promise me two things." "Mu Yan, Ninth Master, please speak." Han Chujo was silent for a long time, then slowly said, "When you ascend to the Shushan continent one day, you will help me raise a flower and plant a fruit." Mu Yan's heart moved. Is it the flower of the other shore and the yellow springs fruit? Han Chujo took a deep look at her and nodded her head. "You have experienced the pain of planting the yellow springs fruit in the moistening space, but that was only a simulated process. If you really want to plant the flower of the other shore and the yellow springs fruit in the real world, it will be thousands of times more difficult than in the virtual space. You may even lose your soul. Are you willing?" Chapter 21:12. Mu Yan nodded without hesitation, "I promise." Han Chujo was startled. "Don't you understand? It's very dangerous to plant the red spider lily. It's very dangerous. It's possible to die and never be reincarnated." Mu Yan curved up her lips and revealed a casual smile. "In the long run, I want to learn your skills. How can I say it without paying a price? In the short run, you are my master." A teacher for a day is a father for life. It's only natural for me to help you. What's more, the so-called cultivator is stepping on the tip of a knife every day to become stronger. If I'm afraid of wolves in front of me and tigers behind me, I might as well stay at home and do embroidery. Although I don't know how to do embroidery. Mu Yan added a sentence in her heart. Han Chujiu stared at the young girl in front of her. Then, her big round eyes got brighter and brighter, and a little watery. Woo! His precious disciple was really too good. The best in the world. Mu Yan asked, Jiu Shifu, what's the second thing? Han Chujiu returned to her senses and quickly stabilized her emotions. She continued to maintain her sage-like image. But when it came to the second thing, she gritted her teeth. After you ascend to the Shushan continent, I want you to teach a lesson to a group of people. Those people bullied Master. Yes. Han Chujiu clenched her fists in anger. They have been squeezing me, laughing at me, and bullying me for many years. When you are strong, you must avenge me and bully them back. Mu Yan. Why is the legendary Xingzhu Medicine King completely different from what she imagined? What the hell is bullying them back? If they are enemies, shouldn't they be killed directly? When Han Chujiu saw Mu Yan's expression, she thought she was worried that the other party was too strong and she can't win. So, she quickly comforted her, don't worry, in this world, it's not only those cultivators who are strong. Alchemists can also be strong and invincible. If not for my body being trapped in this Medicine King Hall and unable to get out, Master, I'd have long gone to blow up their dog heads. Mu Yan swallowed her saliva. Aren't alchemists purely non-combat cultivators? Are all alchemists in the Shushan continent so strong? How can alchemists fight with people? Using medicinal pills to smash people to death. As for using poison, it was certainly possible to deal with the weak, but against the strong, you first had to have a way to use spiritual power to send the poison into the opponent's body. Otherwise, no matter how powerful the poison was, it would be useless. Mayan coughs lightly, Master, in fact, apart from alchemy, I'm very strong in other areas. When I arrive at the Shushan continent, I will definitely help you teach that bastard who bullied you a lesson. Han Chujiu looked at her little apprentice and showed a gratified smile. However, you can't let your guard down. Master's greatest enemy is extremely powerful, and even Master is afraid of him. Cough cough, I can only barely fight him to a draw. If you want to defeat him, it's useless to just use those clumsy martial skills you learned in the cultivation continent. Mu Yan's heart shuddered, and she was somewhat eager to give it a try. I wonder who Ninth Master's enemy is. When she ascends to the Shushan continent, she doesn't know if she can avenge her Ninth Master. Han Chujiu imagined the scene of his precious apprentice beating Di Mingju. He laughed so much that his beard almost fell down. He hurriedly tried to save her, and then solemnly said, but, with your current strength, let alone learning fighting skills, you can't even learn alchemy skills well. You're tuning into the LoveLore Library YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.